What is up, everybody? Nick Fiore of FioriousNation here on YouTube, one half of the Forbidden Podcast here on YouTube via FioriousNation. It is Saturday night of February 7th of 2026, 1 week before Valentine's Day, and man, we're already in the month of February, man. We're already 1 month done of 2026. What the fuck happened to 2026, man? Like, we're already now in February. It's crazy. It's crazy. It'll be spring before you know it, and sadly still cold weather out. It was chilly today, so I look forward for the return of the warmer weather this spring and the summertime. But anyways, hope you all are doing okay here on this fine Saturday night, about almost 8:50. A little late going a little live for Forbidden Podcast episode 11, but hey, I guess better late than never. But anyways, how you guys doing, man? Now, as you see here, it's just me tonight for episode 11. Adam Carl, my co-host, unfortunately is not here tonight. He's got stuff going on. Unfortunately won't make tonight, so tonight you just get me. He'll be back next week. And speaking of Forbidden Podcast, conversating with Adam Carl before I went live here, actually, for starting next week. So tonight, episode 11 Forbidden Podcast, tonight's episode is starting around 8:30, almost like 8:45. But Adam Carl and I were talking before I went live, starting next Saturday, to, instead of go live every Saturday, 8:30, 8:45 p.m., instead, thinking about starting next Saturday, go live on every Saturday morning for Forbidden Podcast here on YouTube, 8 a.m. every Saturday starting next week. So next week we'll start 8 a.m. The 8 a.m. time slot begins next week. If anything like WrestleMania, big like WrestleMania weekend comes up, we could move Forbidden Podcast for that WrestleMania week to like Thursday or something like that. We'll talk about that once we get closer to that. Or if like a wrestling show in my area is coming that I'm going to, we'll work around not to Forbidden Podcast that Saturday. If I go to a wrestling show a Saturday night, maybe move it to 2 days before. On Thursday would be Thursday during the day, though, most likely than not. But stuff like that. But Saturday next, so Forbidden Podcast. So brief announcement, new time slot. It's still Forbidden Podcast on Saturdays, but instead of Saturday night, it'll be Saturday morning, 8 a.m. Go no more than like 3 hours, but it'll be a different time slot on Saturday. So don't worry, it's not moving away from Saturdays. It'll still be on Saturdays, but it'll be 8 a.m. It'll start for next week with episode 12. So episode 12 next week will be 8 a.m. So make sure you mark your calendars on that as well. Also, talking to Pyro earlier for the intro, still working good on the intro. So got a few more songs up in mind, up his sleeve, what he's about to cook, and I look forward to hearing them from real soon. We conversated, should be hearing about it real soon, and I look forward to it. So like I said, the plan is still for the intro for Forbidden Podcast to be released somewhere around April, if not April, May at the latest. So that is still in the cards. So look out for that. And I'm very much looking forward to having the intro for Forbidden Podcast for here on YouTube with FioriousNation. So now that is briefly out of the way, and yes, we'll be live here Saturday morning next week for Valentine's Day, but it's a week from today. Hope that you guys are planning something nice for your Valentine's, and hope we got something good for your Valentine's next week and stuff like that. I know it's been chilly, so hope you're nice and warm. Super Bowl is tomorrow, as I will be watching the Super Bowl tomorrow with the Seattle Seahawks and New England Patriots tomorrow for the 2026 Super Bowl. So watching that tomorrow, stuff like that. And also, if like a wedding or something's taking place on a Saturday for like Forbidden Podcast for will not be on a Saturday on the week of a wedding at all. It'll be most likely 2 days before on a Thursday. Work something out with that. And like I said, if I go to a wrestling show Saturday night, which will be ACW, and shout out to ACW and Hale Collins, by the way. They got ACW Aftershock in Poughkeepsie, New York, Saturday night, March 14th at the Civic Center, Poughkeepsie, New York, which I will definitely be there. So for that Week Forbidden podcast will not be on that Saturday. It'll be 2 days before that on March the 12th. And I've been thinking actually to this tonight before I went live as well, considering having probably an add-on guest on the Forbidden Podcast episode the week of Thursday, March 12th. So look out for that. That is a possibility with that right there. But enough of me rambling on. Just wanted to get those brief announcements. I had to get it off my chest and say it here, and had to get that out of the way. Had to address it right there. So might as well get started here with episode 11. We got a lot to talk about. We got AJ Styles to talk about, his WWE status, where he stands. Is he really done wrestling? Is he retired, or is he retired just in WWE? Will he go wrestle in AEW? Will he wrestle in TNA? Is he signing a Legends deal? Is WWE trying to keep him away from AEW? We'll talk about all that. Ava, The Rock's daughter, is apparently gone from WWE, and she's no longer the NXT General Manager. We did get a new interim General Manager from NXT this past Tuesday. So Robert Stone is the new interim General Manager for NXT, not permanent, but he's interim. Will he be permanent? I'm not sure. We'll see. But Ava is no longer in the WWE. She is gone. She decided to apparently not renew her contract, as her contract was coming up, and she decided to not renew. Apparently, she got lowballed or something like that. Maybe because TKO is restructuring the WWE contracts of what certain people get paid for, depending on their status in the company. Where Vince was like overpaying everybody. Maybe it looks like TKO is trying to restructure and change that. We'll talk about that here. We got Ricochet to talk about. Apparently, he said WWE tarnished his legacy, which I got something to say about on that. Michael Hayes thinking Chelsea Green's not a top girl, thinks she has a ceiling. We'll discuss that as well, and my thoughts on that clown Michael Hayes. But we're going to talk about all that and much more here on episode 11 of Forbidden Podcast here on YouTube via FioriousNation. Tonight you got one half, Nick Fiore of FioriousNation here tonight. Adam Carl, like I said, not here tonight. He's got stuff going on, but he'll be here next Saturday morning for episode 12 next week at 8 a.m. So before we begin discussion wrestling talk for episode 11, I would love for you to hit that like for this video and subscribe to FioriousNation, especially if you're new watching FioriousNation. So it would greatly help the channel. It would help a lot in the YouTube algorithm. So make sure you subscribe to FiorioStation. It would be greatly appreciated. And when you subscribe to FiorioStation, make sure you hit that bell for all notifications whenever this guy and Adam Carl go live every Saturday. So hit the bell for all notifications once you do subscribe to FiorioStation, and make sure you hit that like on the video. It helps out a lot, and it'll be greatly appreciated with all you guys. And also social media. Follow me on X, FioreNick579 over on X. Go follow me on X. Instagram at Nicholas Fiore 2014 over on Instagram. TikTok at FioriousNation. I don't use TikTok. I have a TikTok account. I don't use TikTok, but maybe one of these days. But I'm not active on TikTok much. I have an account. I don't use it at this time, but who knows? Maybe I'll upload stuff on the channel. I'm not sure yet at this time. Maybe sometime down the road, but I do have TikTok. I do have a TikTok at FioriousNation, and Facebook, Nicholas Fiore 31 over on Facebook. You can add me as a friend on Facebook if you like. But all that good stuff with social media, and definitely I'm definitely mostly on X. So follow me on X as well, like I said, at FioreNick579. at FiorioNick579 over on X, aka Twitter. So go follow me on X at FiorioNick579. So we got a lot to discuss about. We're 1 week after the Royal Rumble. We're officially now on the road to WrestleMania 42 in Las Vegas. 1 week removed from the Royal Rumble, which I thought wasn't a bad show, but it was disappointing. There was more negative than positive. It was very disappointing, and it had a lot to do with the Saudi crowd. And I will say, after the Royal Rumble for this year, 2026, which was in Saudi, after what I watched and a lot of people watched last week, I think a lot of us are all in agreement, and I can truly say that the Royal Rumble should never go to Saudi Arabia ever again. That crowd last week in Saudi for the Rumble was terrible. It was not good. It was awful. A lot of these people at the show last week got no reaction when they should be. And Saudi cheers who they want, and it was just lifeless, and it just wasn't really a good look at all. And I hope they never go back to Saudi ever again. The Rumble should never be in Saudi ever again. And WrestleMania, I would say after WrestleMania and for Saudi for WrestleMania 43 next year, after that, the Rumble and Mania should never be in Saudi ever again. And as far as I'm concerned, they don't deserve a WrestleMania because that crowd just fucking blows. It's always so lifeless with these Saudi shows, and they don't mean a damn thing regardless. So after Mania next year, I'm hoping and praying WWE never goes to Saudi Arabia for the Royal Rumble or WrestleMania ever again. Maybe Crown Jewel, but fine. But for the Rumble, Mania, SummerSlam, Survivor Series, they should never be in Saudi Arabia for those shows, or even Money in the Bank. The big PLE, like the big five every year for WWE, for as far as PLEs are concerned, never ever go to Saudi Arabia ever again. And that I will say right there. You can clip it right here. Saudi Arabia doesn't deserve a Royal Rumble, especially, and they don't deserve a Royal Rumble, the Saudi, and Saudi doesn't deserve WrestleMania, especially WrestleMania. And I'm not even happy about Mania beating the Saudi next year. I'm not happy about that at all. And I expect that Mania next year to be not good. So hopefully after Mania next year, they never go to Saudi for the big PLEs. Like never, after Mania and Saudi next year for WrestleMania 43 in 2027, never, ever, ever again go to Saudi for Royal Rumble and WrestleMania, especially WrestleMania. And speaking of the Royal Rumble, apparently next year's Royal Rumble in January 2027 apparently is returning back to the United States soil. So the Rumble next year is going to be in the U.S. Thank fucking God for that. Thank God for that. That Rumble crowd in Saudi for this year's Rumble was so fucking lifeless and just terrible. Like, just absolutely god-awful. Just nothing positive about it. They cheer who they cheer, and it felt like it felt like you were in a fucking church. No one made a fucking peep. It was like silence for almost everybody there, and it just really drags the show down. There's that Saudi crowd is just, it's just so lifeless usually every time they go there. And these Saudi shows don't mean a fucking thing there most times than not anyways. And even a good friend of mine who got back into watching the product a couple years ago, around 2023, a good friend of mine who I've been friends with since grade school, he even said that the Rumble should never be in Saudi ever again. It was just so bad. Like he literally says that American fans have been so loyal for so long and they pay so much for tickets. And he even says he hates having major events in Saudi. And I mean, he's not wrong at all. I mean, tell him when he's telling lies. It's a very good friend of mine since grade school, and been friends for several years. So I mean, tell him when he's telling lies. Very good friend of mine by the name of Lucas Smith, a very good friend of mine. And I know, not sure if he's ever watched my show, but shout out to him, by the way. He even said, and he stopped watching, and he used to watch WWE and wrestling years ago, then he stopped watching, then he got back in the product 3 years ago, around 2023-ish, and stuff like that. And he even hates these WWE Saudi shows, and I can't blame, and I don't sit there and blame him at all. And he's not wrong in feeling that way. I feel the same exact way, and so do a lot of other people. So the fact that the Rumble is going to be back in the States next January, thank Christ for that. If the Rumble was in the States this year, I guarantee I'm pretty sure that crowd would have been a lot better. That crowd, like if the Royal Rumble this year was anywhere in the U.S., like if it was in New York or Massachusetts or Chicago, California, Texas, Florida, what have you, anywhere in the United States, if the Rumble this year was anywhere in the States this year for this year's Rumble, I'm telling you that crowd would have been much, much better than that crowd in Saudi. 100 times better. No doubt about it. And thank goodness they're going back to the States for the Rumble next year. So I'm hoping I'm hoping Saudi never gets the Rumble ever again, because this year's Rumble in Saudi was not that good. It wasn't a bad show, but it was just disappointing. And that crowd really didn't help at all either. So thank goodness the Rumbles are turning to the United States on U.S. soil in January of 2027 next year. Thank fucking God for that. Other news, also want to talk about other quick news about like shows coming up in certain locations. I'm not going to waste too much time on that. Apparently, NXT Roadblock, they're going to be at the theater in Madison Square Garden on Tuesday, March 31st of 2026. That was recently announced, and tickets are on sale now for that. They'll be at the theater in Madison Square Garden for NXT Roadblock. That'll be one day after now Raw on March 30th of 2026. That Monday Night Raw episode is going to be in Madison Square Garden. That Monday Night Raw episode on March 30th of this year, 2026. And the next night is NXT Roadblock in the theater in MSG. That's one night after the Raw in MSG this year, March 30th. So apparently tickets for NXT Roadblock in the theater in MSG, March 31st, 2026. Those tickets for that show are on sale now. I might actually go to that show. I was at NXT Gold Rush at the theater in MSG last November, about a month before John Cena retired late last year. I was at the NXT Gold Rush show at the theater in MSG last November, and I was there live. I pretty much enjoyed myself. That crowd was very energetic. They were a great crowd. I expect the same for this March, and I may actually go to that show, actually. And I enjoyed myself with NXT in the theater in MSG last November. I expect the same thing and no different, the same exact energy with NXT Roadblock this late March. And this guy may actually be there for that show. So we'll see what happens. But NXT Roadblock, well, NXT returns to the theater in MSG for NXT Roadblock March 31st, a few weeks before WrestleMania 42, where and hopefully NXT Roadblock this year in that theater in MSG is a good show. It was a great show with NXT Roadblock in the theater in MSG in mid-March of 2025 last year. You had the Hardys versus Fraxium for the TNA Tag Team titles. That was I think it was for the TNA Tag titles, or was it for the NXT Tag titles? It was one of them, but that was a very good match. You had Oba Femi, I think, wrestle on the show. You had Ethan Page, Javon Evans, I believe. You had Jordan Grace, Roxanne Perez. It was a very good show, that NXT Roadblock in mid-March of 2025. Very good show. And I was not even there for that show for NXT Roadblock 2025. And I honestly wish I was, because that show was very, very good. I was at the Raw before, where CM Punk, Seth Rollins fought Nick Steel Cage, and Roman Reigns came out during Punk's and Rollins cage match on that Raw and MSG. I was there live for that Raw. But the next night, where you had NXT Roadblock 2025 at the theater in MSG, that show I was not there. And watching it live on the CW, I honestly wish it was. I honestly wish I was there for that show last year. So looks like this guy will be at NXT Roadblock this late March at the theater at MSG. So we'll see what happens with that. Other news here, we got Backlash 2026. Actually, we'll stick with the NXT show venue arena announcement stuff. Apparently, NXT Vengeance Day 2026 will be, I think it's like March, not March 7th, but it'll be somewhere in like early March. I think like March 9th or something. I'm pretty sure. NXT Vengeance Day 2026 at the WWE Performance Center, apparently. If I can find it, here we go. So This is according to bodyslam.net. Internal discussions apparently point to March 7th, 2026 as the planned date for NXT Vengeance Day 2026. So that would be on a Saturday. It might be on Peacock. I know WWE's deal with Peacock expires in March of this year. We don't know where NXT PLEs are going to end up, if they're going to end up on ESPN Unlimited or whatnot. We don't know about that at this time, but maybe they'll be on Peacock March 7th. So that's a Saturday for NXT Vengeance Day 2026. Looks like we'll do a Forbidden podcast early at day 8 a.m. Maybe do like NXT Vengeance Day preview predictions. We'll figure that out play by ear when we get closer to that date. But NXT Vengeance Day 2026 looks like the date for that NXT PLE looks like it'll be live on Peacock. They're shooting for March 7th, Saturday, 2026. So, and it'll be in Orlando, Florida at the WWE Performance Center is the likely location according to bodyslam.net. Now, I'm a little disappointed this is at the Performance Center, but I mean, I guess it is what it is. I mean, I would have had it outside the Performance Center. If you wanted Vengeance Day, I maybe have it at the Spectrum Center. I think they had NXT Vengeance Day 2023 at the Spectrum Center in Charlotte, North Carolina. That was actually very good show. This was Vengeance Day 2023. That was actually not a bad show at all, and I watched that live. That was a good show. I think you had like Wes Lee and Dijakovic for the North American title. You had Braun Breaker and Grayson Waller in a steel cage match for the NXT title. It was not a bad show. But unfortunately, they'll be at the Performance Center, which is not that good of a crowd. And I miss NXT at Full Sail so much. But this show will be at the PC, but I don't know. Not a fan of it, but it is what it is. Hopefully, it's a good show. Especially with the recent call-ups from NXT to the main roster, with them losing Oba Femi, Javon Evans, and Trick Williams, and Jordan Grace to the main roster, Raw and SmackDown. But they have just had Joe Hendry win the NXT title in a 7-man ladder match this past Tuesday on NXT. Very happy for Joe Hendry, by the way. Beat 6 other guys, including Ricky Saints. So Joe Hendry's the NXT champion. I expect him to defend his title at Vengeance Day. Joe Hendry, the brand new NXT champion. Maybe we get Joe Hendry and Ricky Saints on Vengeance Day. Maybe that's what they're building towards, or if we get that at NXT Roadblock. I don't know what they do, but hopefully it looks like a decent show. And I don't know if it's going to be their last, and who knows if it's going to be the NXT's last PLE on Peacock. So that's so as far as the Peacock thing is concerned, we'll see what happens with that. I don't know what happens with them. The WWE main roster PLEs are on ESPN Unlimited. NXT PLEs and Saturday Night's Main Event are on Peacock for now through at least March of 2026, as their 5-year deal with Peacock is coming up next month. So hopefully they either extend the Peacock deal or they land on something reasonable. And I don't really want them on ESPN Unlimited. I would rather something maybe like, I don't know, Hulu or something cheap like Peacock. I don't know if I'd really want NXT PLEs and Saturday Night's Main Event on ESPN Unlimited, to be honest, especially when they had a lot of the ads and commercials, which I'm not really a big fan of. But we'll see what happens as far as NXT PLEs are concerned with Peacock as well. Saturday Night's Main Event on Peacock as well, and coming up with NXT Vengeance Day 2026. Other news about wrestling shows at venues as well. We also have Backlash, Triple H, before the day of the 2026 Royal Rumble in Saudi Arabia, the day of it, before the show, Triple H did announce that Backlash 2026 is going to be in Tampa, Florida. It'll be on Saturday, March, not March, sorry, May. Sorry, I don't know why I said March, but I don't know. One of those days, but Saturday, May 9th of 2026. It will be Backlash 2026 in Tampa, Florida, Tampa Bay, Florida. Saturday, I said March. I don't know why. Think on me. Anyways, Saturday, May 9th of this year is Backlash in Tampa. That's the day before Mother's Day. Backlash will be in Tampa. There were rumors of Backlash maybe going to Puerto Rico again this year, but unfortunately, that's not the case for Backlash this year. They'll be in Tampa. I was hoping they'd be in Puerto Rico, but they get Tampa. Tampa's not bad either. I've been to Tampa for shows. That's not bad at all by any means. Hopefully Tampa shows up, and they're usually a decent crowd. Usually Florida State for wrestling shows in general, usually a good crowd, especially Orlando. So, and Triple H says it's going to be epic, and Triple H's favorite word, epic. He loves his word epic. Oh, the new era this, new era that. I mean, just please give us a good show, Triple H. Just stop playing it safe and give us a good show. And this is coming from a big Triple H guy dating all the way back to NXT Black and Gold. Just like, instead of more talking the talk, just more walk the walk. Just give us a good show and stuff. And just stop playing it safe and stop listening to Bruce Pritchard and Michael Hayes, Road Dogg, Koski, those 4 fucking clowns, and just ignore them and just get rid of them and have some decent writers like Stephanie McMahon on their team who will know how to get things done. So that's my take on that. It should be a decent crowd though in Tampa. So, and Backlash last year was actually good. I think they were in Kansas City. I think I don't want to be lying to myself. So let me actually look this up. Backlash 2025. They were in, let me see here, St. Louis, Missouri. St. Louis, Missouri was Backlash last year in 2025. So not Kansas City, it was St. Louis. So St. Louis, Missouri for Backlash 2025 last year. This year they'll be in Tampa. Now, Backlash last year was actually a very good show. It was a very good show with Backlash last year. Hopefully it's the same case this May for this year's Backlash. I do expect I would predict with Roman Reigns and CM Punk at WrestleMania 42, which I think will main event night 2, and it's for the World Heavyweight Championship. I think that'll main event this year's WrestleMania for night 2. I would hope that Punk retains, and at Backlash we get CM Punk versus Seth Rollins for the world title, the title that Seth never lost, and there's a story there where Seth can challenge Punk for the world title he never lost at Backlash this year in Tampa, and Seth can win it back. Or maybe we add Braun Breaker there and make it a triple threat, Seth, Braun, and Punk for the world title and a triple threat this year at Backlash in Tampa, and maybe Braun Breaker wins a title there. Who the hell knows? But I do expect at least, hopefully, Punk and Seth for the world title in some capacity, hopefully, for this year's Backlash in Tampa, Florida. And there's a story there where Seth never lost a title. And Seth Rollins never lost the world title. He had to give up the title due to an injury. He had to give up his championship due to an injury that he injured his shoulder with at Crown Jewel in Perth last October. And now CM Punk's the champion. And the only reason Punk is champion is because Seth got hurt. So there's a story there where Seth can reclaim the title he never, ever lost. So I'm hoping that's the direction they do, but we'll see. As I think that would be a very good story coming out of WrestleMania and going into Backlash this May in Tampa, Florida. But Backlash 2026 is announced for Tampa, Florida. And I think for Backlash this May in Tampa, they'll be at the Benchmark International Arena in Tampa, Florida. I don't know if it's the same arena as Amalie Arena. I think. Yeah, it's the former Amalie Arena. Yes. Just looking up the arena for Tampa for this year's Backlash this May 9th. It is the former Amalie Arena. I was actually, fun little fact, there was a Monday Night Raw in July of 2022 at the Amalie Arena in Tampa Bay, Florida. That was for a live Monday Night Raw, and I was actually there. I think that was the last live. Now I think that was the last Vince Raw before Vince originally retired in July of 2022. But I was at that Raw in Amalie Arena with a couple of good friends of mine. Still very much friends with them to this day. We all went to that Raw in Tampa, Florida, former Amalie Arena. And, I mean, wasn't that good of a Raw, but crowd-wise, I did enjoy myself, though. But I remember being at that Raw. I think that was where Titus O'Neil did a Raw speech for Vince, but then days later, that same week, Vince McMahon retired. That was his original retirement. But that was at that Raw in Tampa for July of 2022, but the former Amalie Arena in Tampa will be the now home for this year's Backlash May 9th. So hopefully that's a decent show, and usually Tampa and Florida State for wrestling in general is usually a good crowd, like I said. So hopefully they show up for this year's Backlash. So we'll see. Hopefully Backlash this May is a decent show coming out of WrestleMania 42, as that is the PLE after WrestleMania 42. So we'll see what happens with that. Other news, apparently an injury update on Piper Niven as well. She's been out for a while due to a serious neck injury. She's been out for quite some time. She's been out since the summer of 2025 due to a serious neck injury, apparently. And I got a little update as well with Piper Niven. It says back in September that Fightful Select reported that Piper Niven suffered a neck injury and that it was pretty serious, and that she may be forced to retire with a neck injury. However, Piper Niven has now shared a recent update on social media, and she responded to a fan who asked how she has been feeling or whether there's a chance she will return to the ring. Now, Niven confirmed that she is in a good spot after 5 months, but said that due to her injury, some days she can only stand for a few minutes at a time. She also makes it clear that she would love to return to wrestling and cannot imagine doing anything else, asking everyone to keep their fingers crossed that she recovers as well. And Piper Niven, it was on X that she was quote tweeting a fan actually with this, and says she would love to come back as well. And she said, "So I've done it I've wanted to do since I was 16 years old, and I cannot imagine doing anything else. I still love it as much as I did the first day I started. And I feel like I was really just starting to get confident again and open up and hit my groove. So all this to say, I hope so. Keep your fingers crossed for me." So that was a tweet from recently on this past Monday, February 2nd, from Miss Piper Niven. She has been out since the late summer, early fall with a neck injury, and this possibility never wrestling again. But she's been out lately. I know it's like she was with a Secret Service, didn't do much of her with SmackDown, but hopefully she is cleared pretty soon. Hopefully. I mean, SmackDown's women's, Piper Niven is actually a good wrestler, and SmackDown's women's division could use all the help they could get. Like, they literally have nobody. Jade Cargill's women's champion's been a flop. All they got is Tiffany Stratton, Alexa Bliss, Charlotte Flair. That's it. And Alexa and Charlotte are in a tag team, at least for now. But I do think hopefully they split up and Alexa turns on Charlotte soon, hopefully. But then they got Julia's women's U.S. champion, and Kiana James has been decent lately since the Rumble. But and Lash Legend just got called up. She's not ready right now. Nia Jax, I don't really care for. Chelsea Green could be booked so much better, but that's what happens when you have Road Dogg Bright SmackDown and Bruce Pritchard there. But SmackDown's women's division is absolutely terrible, and they could use all the help they could get. Hopefully Piper Niven is brought back soon, because SmackDown could definitely use her. But please do not put her back in the Secret Service. If anything, I would take Piper Niven out of the Secret Service, have her on her own. I would just ditch the Secret Service altogether, honestly. Chelsea Green on her own could be something and stuff. And I would actually end the Secret Service, have Chelsea Green on SmackDown and Alliance, and not with the Secret Service, but with Ethan Page. Call up Ethan Page from NXT to SmackDown after WrestleMania. You pair Ethan Page and Chelsea Green together, and they were actually decent pairing in NXT when they were AAA Mixed Tag Team Champions. I think that could work. So hopefully that's something I would honestly love to see, because the Secret Service is just awful and it's just not working out. Alba Flyer is another talented wrestler, and I don't think the Secret Service is doing anything for her either. But that's just my opinion on that and stuff. Hopefully Piper Niven is back soon. The SmackDown women's division could use all the help they can get. You probably could put her in the mid card, challenging for the women's U.S. title. But please, for the love of God, don't have her back in the Secret Service, please. So I'm begging you. So we'll see what happens with Piper Niven. And hopefully she's not forced to retire due to a neck injury. And if she does have to retire with a neck injury, that would fucking suck. And she's in her prime, and nowhere even close to being done wrestling yet. So if she's forced to retire with a neck injury, that would really fucking suck. Hopefully that's not the case. But wishing Piper Niven nothing but the best, and hopefully she's able to get cleared soon from her neck injury. Speaking of neck injuries, I didn't put it here in the description of episode 11. Apparently, Big E is apparently retired. I want to bring up a tweet he put out. He put this out not long ago. If I can find the tweet. Here we go. If I can find it. If it's here, I think he posted this like a day ago. I think this is the one right here. So he posted a day ago, did Big E. And unfortunately, for those of you hoping Big E's back wrestling again, it looks like sadly he is retired. And that's a shame. So Big E puts out this tweet. I entered the pro wrestling industry at age 23 with an injury history that included a torn left ACL, torn right ACL, torn left pec, and a broken right patella. At 39, I'm well aware that I will one day have to pay the piper. I've put my body through a lot, and somehow I feel great. I don't battle daily pain. I'm able to function normally and healthfully. I'm eternally grateful for the wonderful career I stumbled into. I pray for all of my fellow athletes and performers who have not had the same good fortune. A sincere thank you to everyone who has taken the time to follow my in-ring career. It was an immeasurable gift to get to perform for you all. And that was the tweet Big E put, pretty much saying, I'm done wrestling and I'm retiring. And Big E got injured with a career-ending neck injury in March 2022, and has not wrestled since, and now he's retired. And the neck injury got the neck injury he got 4 years ago, unfortunately got the best of him, and that fucking sucks. And it's a damn shame. Big E, just one of those guys that they say never meet your heroes in wrestling, and a lot of people in wrestling are selfish. Big E is not one of them. He's not that guy that's just there for himself. You can tell he's very respectful and humble and caring and all. And I feel very, very, very bad for Big E that his career's been cut short. And he's not even old, like what, late 30s going into 40s, and he doesn't even look the age, but it's really a fucking shame that he's forced to retire. And this guy was the WWE champion. He was Mr. Money in the Bank, two-time Intercontinental champion. He was a multi-time tag team champion in the New Day with Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods. He has had a decorated career. I just wish me selfishly, I would love to see him wrestle again, but unfortunately with the neck injury, it looks like that is preventing him from wrestling. And I'm very heartbroken for Big E and can only imagine what he's going through. But thank you to Big E. He had a heck of a run. I mean, could have been better, yes, but I just hope that man is healthy and happy. But I mean, I'd be lying to you if I told you I'm not gonna miss him wrestling. And it's a damn shame that his career got cut so short due to an injury. And it was nobody's fault. I remember that SmackDown, he got that neck injury, was Ridge Holland giving him an overhead belly to belly, and Big E landed like this on his neck. It looked really bad. And it wasn't even Ridge Holland's fault. I saw a lot of people giving Ridge Holland shit. Oh, fuck you, deserve to be fired, and sending death threats to Ridge Holland. And that was disgusting. It was not even Ridge Holland's fault. And when Big E, the day after Big E's neck injury, went to immediate neck surgery in the hospital, who was the first one to see Big E in the hospital apologize to him? Ridge Holland. Ridge Holland was that guy, former WWE wrestler, by the way. Ridge Holland went to Big E and apologized, and he felt so horrible what he did to Big E, and he was really apologetic. And Big E said, I'm not mad. It's okay. It happens. And there were no grudges whatsoever, and Big E and Ridge Holland are cool. So it was not even Ridge Holland's fault. It was not Ridge Holland's fault at all, and it wasn't even Big E's fault. Nobody was at fault here. Injuries happen anytime, and it sucks that Big E now can't wrestle anymore. And I feel he had so much more left to give, and it's a damn shame that now he can no longer get in the ring and do what he loves most, and that's wrestle. Now Edge, his career was cut short with a neck injury he got in 2011 that forced him to retire for 9 years until the 2020 Men's Royal Rumble when he finally wrestled again. I don't know if Big E wants to do that or if he just wants to retire for now. Maybe wants to wrestle again later on down the road. I don't know what that man wants to do. I just hope nothing but the best for him. Maybe Big E is retired now, maybe years later wrestles again. Who knows? But I don't know what that man deep down inside. I don't know what Big E wants to do, but I do miss him wrestling. I mean, if he wants to wrestle, maybe retire for a while for several years, maybe get back into bumping and wrestling again. I don't know. Again, it's not my choice at whatever Big E wants to do. I just hope the man's okay and happy and healthy and stuff. And most of all, just hoping he's healthy. But he did have quite the run in WWE. It could have been better, but he was a Triple Crown champion and he was Mr. Money in the Bank, multi-time IC champion. He was also a former NXT champion, the second NXT champion, beating Seth Rollins, who was the first ever NXT champion. He's had run-ins and battles with John Cena, Dolph Ziggler, Mark Henry as well, Wade Barrett or Bad News Barrett. He's had battles with the Usos, with the New Day and Usos battle and on SmackDown in 2017 over the SmackDown tag team titles. Big E in his battles with Luke Harper, God rest his soul, and Eric Rowan when they were the Bludgeon Brothers and also the Wyatt family. Big E's battles with Bray Wyatt and Apollo Crews and Sami Zayn, Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens, Shinsuke Nakamura, Bobby Lashley, the list goes on and on. Big E and Matt in battles with CM Punk as well. Big E's done quite a lot in his run in WWE, and it's sad that his career got cut so short. I just wish the man nothing but the best. Maybe wrestles again years later like Edge did. I don't know. If Edge can come back from a serious neck injury, maybe Big E can or something like that. But again, it all depends on, I think, what Big E wants to do. I just hope the man's all right, and we'll see what he wants to do. Maybe but we'll see. Again, it's just the selfish me would love to see Big E wrestle again, but I know his health comes first and stuff. But we'll see. And I also remember in matches he used to do that spear through the middle ropes, and that looked scary every time he did it. It was like that's a bad way to seriously injure a neck. But again, injuries happen anytime in wrestling. Not slandering Big E at all, but I mean, injuries happen in wrestling. It's a shame. It really is a damn shame what happened to Big E with his career. So, and stuff like that. And then he had the New Day turn on Big E at the end of 2024, and that went nowhere either. And now that Big E sadly retired, what you do with Kofi and Woods? You know what I would do? Kill the heel Woods and heel Kofi, and get them and this Grayson Waller Kofi and Woods alliance. It's going fucking nowhere. I'd end that shit, bro. Turn Kofi and Woods face again, and just have them back in the tag division as baby faces with the New Day power positivity gimmick that they had before they went heel. Honestly. Especially with Big E retired, I think it's only right that you do that with Kofi and Woods, because look at what they're doing now. They're going fucking nowhere. They're directionless as fuck, and they're actually a valuable tag team, but they have no direction right now. You want to change that? This is what you do. If I was on the creative team, this is what I'm doing. Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods, turn them both babyface again. The heel Woods and Kofi experiment has failed. Turn them back face and put them in the tag team division on Monday Night Raw as faces. Or if they have a draft after Mania this year, move them to SmackDown, as they could use a change of scenery and move them to SmackDown. And I would have them on a tag team babyface run and pay tribute to Big E. Maybe give him one more tag team title run. Who knows? But that's what I would do with Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods going forward. Enough of this heel Woods and heel Kofi bullshit. And it's going fucking nowhere, and it sucked, and it's a shame because Kofi and Woods are actually a very, very talented team, and they're not doing anything with them, and it feels like they're just wasting away. They're not doing jack shit with them. Just turn them face again in honor and to pay tribute to Big E. And the heel Kofi and heel Woods is going nowheres, and it's not working out. And I would just turn them face again, and Raw and God knows Raw's tag division needs all the help they can get. Just Same thing with SmackDown's too. SmackDown's tag division needs all the help they can get too. So if I was on the WWE creative team, that's what I'm doing. Turn Kofi Kingston face again and turn Xavier Woods face again. I think that's the best thing for WWE, the tag team division. And I think it's also the best thing for Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods as well. And it's only right. And now that Big E sadly retired, there's no reason to have Kofi and Woods as heels still now. Just turn them face again is what I would do. Just simply turn Kofi and Woods face again. That is what I would do. So with Big E sadly retired, it sucks. I'm very sad about it. Hope the man is happy. Maybe he wrestles again years later, like Edge didn't came out of retirement and wrestled again like he still is now. But we'll see what happens as far as Big E is concerned. Other news, apparently, they also announced the location for the SmackDown Before Mania and the Raw After Mania this year. The SmackDown before WrestleMania 42 will be at the T-Mobile Center Arena in Las Vegas. Same thing with the Raw After Mania. They'll be in that same arena, T-Mobile Center Arena in Las Vegas as well for the SmackDown Before Mania and Raw After Mania this year. Not really much in news, as we figured this would be since WrestleMania is in Las Vegas again this year, like last year. So not wasting too much time on that as well. I would hope for this year's Raw After Mania is good like last year's, because that Raw After Mania crowd last year was very good. And that Raw After Mania last year was one of the best Raws of last year, hands down. So I expect the same thing, hopefully, for this year's Raw After Mania. Right there. We also have other news. Ava, The Rock's daughter, Simone Johnson, Ava's real name. This is the daughter of Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Ava is gone from WWE and is no longer the general manager of NXT. She left the WWE. Her last appearance was NXT, not this past Tuesday, but the week before. It was the NXT before the Royal Rumble. That was her last WWE appearance. She's no longer in WWE. She's not the NXT GM anymore. Apparently, her WWE deal was coming up, and she decided to not renew. And I was shocked to hear of this, and I thought she'd be a lifer, but it looks like maybe this wrestling thing wasn't working out, and maybe I don't know what she wants to do after wrestling in WWE, whatever she wants to choose, whatever career she wants to choose, career path she wants to choose after. I don't know, and then apparently I think she was lowballed. I think if TKO's restructuring contracts, because when Vince was in charge before the sale to Endeavor, Vince was overpaying a lot of wrestlers just so they don't go anywhere else. I don't know if it's TKO restructuring that. I don't know. I'm not going to get too much into detail, but I will say about Ava, The Rock's daughter, she was not that good as an NXT GM. I'll be real. I've said first she was okay, but then later on she was just terrible. And no, she was not a better general manager in NXT than William Regal. Don't at me. So, and apparently Robert Stone is the interim NXT GM. They didn't say permanent, but they say it's an interim NXT GM. I don't know if it's a permanent thing or if they're going to find a permanent NXT GM sometime down the road and find someone else for the job. I don't know. We'll see what happens with that. But Ava's no longer in NXT. She wasn't that good as NXT GM, so it's no big loss. But I do wish Ava nothing but the best now that she's no longer in WWE. I don't know what she wants to do after life after WWE, but at the end of the day, I just wish that one nothing but the best, and best of luck to her future endeavors and whatever she wants to do. I hope she's happy whatever she's doing with life out after WWE, but we'll see what happens as far as NXT is concerned with a general manager. They did announce Robert Stone as the interim NXT general manager. I don't expect that long term at all. I would hope he's not the permanent NXT GM. We'll see. Maybe they have William Regal's NXT GM again. I don't think he ever should have left. I don't think he ever should have left the role in the first place 5 years ago. Maybe they got someone else in mind. Maybe Paige. She's still a free agent out there. Gail Kim's still a free agent. And we'll actually talk about Gail Kim in a little bit, I guess. Apparently, TNA is suing her for whatever reason. I don't fucking know. LOL TNA. They let her go, and apparently now they're suing her. I don't fucking get it, but I guess I won't waste too much time on the TNA stuff. It's just, yeah, like I mean, who cares? I mean, who cares about TNA, right? But I don't know. Maybe, who knows? Maybe Gail Kim is the new NXT GM sometime. Who the fuck knows? And I actually would not mind that, honestly. She'd probably do a better job. She would definitely do a better job than Ava did, but I don't know what their plans are for the NXT GM. Right now, it's the interim NXT GM, Robert Stone, but I don't know what they do, man, but we'll see. But apparently, Ava is gone from WWE, and she's gone from NXT too, so she's no longer in the company. So, which I was shocked here because she's the Rock's daughter. You think she'd be there for life, but I was very surprised to hear the news that Ava was gone from that. I was very surprised to hear the news that Ava is now gone from WWE, and she posted it on her Instagram as well. If I can find Ava's Instagram post, let me see here. If I can find it, if it's right here. Let me just find it. And Ava also deleted her Twitter account as well after apparently she talked about ICE. I'm not going to get into that politics crap. I'm not into that stuff at all. If I can find the Instagram, it's probably not there, but if I can find it. Oh, here we go. So this was Ava's Instagram post recently regarding her leaving WWE. She said, this past Tuesday, and this was before the Royal Rumble this year. She said, this past Tuesday was my last appearance on NXT and subsequently WWE. Thank you to all who have cheered, watched, and supported me through my journey. While my decision to not renew my contract was very difficult, it's also a new turning point in my life. It has been an honor and a privilege to be Ava. And that was Ava's Instagram reel post. It was before this year's Royal Rumble. Again, I wish Ava nothing but the best. Hope whatever she ends whatever she ends up doing. Hopefully she's happy what she does. I don't know if AEW picks her up or whatnot, or TNA. I don't know. I just wish that one nothing but the best, and hopefully she's happy whatever she chooses next in her life with life outside WWE. So wishing Ava nothing but the best. And then I mentioned NXT interim GM Robert Stone, like I said. Other brief news. Kit Wilson. Apparently, Kit Wilson was considered for this year's Men's Royal Rumble in Saudi Arabia. I actually predicted Kit Wilson to be entry 1 or 2 or 3 in this year's Royal Rumble. He was not in this year's Royal Rumble at all. So that was not that. But he was considered to be one of the participants in this year's Men's Royal Rumble, but that was not to be. Probably best he wasn't in the Rumble. I mean, he's gone viral only because of his music, but he's not that good of a wrestler. And he may get, and I think one of my other friends on X, I believe he said, I think I read it earlier today, he said he predicts, now I don't call for anyone to lose their job, but I would not be surprised if Kit Wilson's released by the end of the year. But that's not a news or anything, just my prediction. But Kit Wilson is over only because of his music and his catchy music. But as a wrestler, I don't really find him I don't really find him much attention-wise in the ring. Like, I don't feel it with him in the ring much at all. He did get destroyed by Oba Femi last night on SmackDown, which I thought was hilarious and perfectly booked, where Kit Wilson's running his mouth and then he has an open challenge, and Oba Femi just obliterates him, beats him quick amount of fashion, dominates him, hits a fall of grace, 1, 2, 3, stuff like that. But Kit Wilson was going to be in this year's Royal Rumble, but it was not to be. I'm not going to waste too much time on this. I mean, Kit Wilson and the Rumble, really, that's just a waste of a spot, if I'm being brutally honest. Like, what would he have done in the Rumble outside of, like, doing the toxic? He would have done nothing in the Rumble. That would have been a total waste of a spot if he was in the Rumble this year. So I'm actually glad they didn't have him in the Rumble this year, so is what I will say. I know some people are going viral with Kit Wilson and stuff. And that's really just because of his music. I don't really find Kit Wilson all that impressive in the ring. And I don't think he deserves a push either. But I just, yeah, if Kit Wilson was in this Rumble, it would have been like, why? So I'm actually glad they didn't do that with Kit Wilson in this year's Royal Rumble, but he was considered. But thank God that didn't actually happen. But again, not wasting too much time on it because I don't really find much about Kit Wilson. We do have other news here. Apparently, Tomasso Ciampa, this was the day of the 2026 Royal Rumble in Saudi Arabia. Tomasso Ciampa, who recently left WWE, he's now in AEW, and he beat Mark Briscoe for the TNT title a week ago, became the brand new TNT champion. This Ciampa's first match in AEW, wins a TNT title and stuff. So, and I'm glad he won, and I'm actually happy for Ciampa. I expected Tony to have him lose his first match because usually when you go to AEW, you lose your first match. But I'm very shocked that Ciampa won the title, and it was the right move. And I'm very, very happy for the Psycho Killer Tommaso Ciampa. And so far, not too bad with him in AEW. Now it's all in the follow-up, and hopefully he has a decent reign with the TNT title. I don't trust Tony Khan with Tommaso Ciampa still at all, but hopefully I'm proven wrong, and Ciampa actually has a nice run in AEW. He's TNT champion now. Looks like he's fighting Kyle Fletcher for the TNT title at AEW Grand Slam in Australia, which I believe is in a week from today, a week from tonight, next week, February 14th. I believe that'll be in Australia. Kyle Fletcher and Tommaso Ciampa for the TNT title, looking likely for that show, I would suppose. But again, it's all in the follow-up. Ciampa won the TNT title. That's great, but it's all in the follow-up. Hopefully they got a solid plan for Tommaso Ciampa in AEW as TNT champion, but I don't trust Tony Khan with him. I don't, but we'll see. I do hope I'm proven wrong, though, and Ciampa can better himself, reinvent himself in AEW, but we'll see what happens with the Psycho Killer now that he's all elite and all elite wrestling in AEW. And I don't know if Johnny Gargano follows suit as well. Same thing with Candice LeRae. They're being treated poorly on SmackDown, and you can thank fucking Road Dogg for that shit and Bruce Pritchard. Nothing will change in WWE for the better as long as Bruce Pritchard, Road Dogg, Ed Koskey, and Michael Hayes are still there, because there's still Vince Poisons in that company, and Koskey, Bruce, Dogg, and Koskey, Hayes, Dogg, and Bruce. Just get those four clowns the fuck out. Nothing will change as long as those four clowns are still there. Honestly. But I don't know what Johnny and Candice want to do. If they want to stay there, if they want to leave, I don't know. Johnny Gargano was like laying on a production crate during SmackDown last night. I mean, I feel Johnny's pain. He's like, not speaking, he's like laying down on a crate, and it said NXT in the corner of the crate. I don't know if Johnny Gargano and Candice LeRae go back to NXT. I don't know if they leave or stay in the company, but go back to NXT. At this point, NXT's men's division could use all the help they can get, and Joe Hendry could use some challengers. I don't know if Johnny Gargano goes back to NXT, reinvents himself with his wife, Candice LeRae. I don't know if they leave. I don't know what goes on with Johnny and Candice, but we'll see what happens. But whatever happens with them, I will keep you guys posted and updated on that as far as all that is concerned regarding Candice LeRae and Johnny wrestling Johnny Gargano, but we'll see. But Tommaso Ciampa and AEW, not too bad so far, and I got to give them credit with Ciampa. But hopefully they keep up that momentum with Ciampa, and he's too good to just be wasted in AEW. Though I expect Tony Khan to get bored of him very quick. Hopefully Ciampa doesn't. Hopefully that doesn't happen with Tommaso Ciampa. And continuing here, just going over, talked about Piper Niven, talked about Ava, Kit Wilson, Roadblock, Tomasso Ciampa, and stuff like that. Just checking here, looking at my notes here. And might as well move on to the next topic of discussion of this show as I take a sip here. I drink water. Might as well read some comments in the chat. Bruce Harper, 3583. What's up, Bruce? Says, hi, Nick. He says, Nick, I hope you had a good day. Thank you, Bruce. I had a decent day today. Hopefully, you have had a good day today as well, Bruce. Thank you for stopping by. I appreciate you very much, brother. Hit the like on the video if you haven't done so already as well. So, hope you're doing all right, Bruce, and happy to have you here. So, we also, moving on, we also have the WWE reportedly scrapping idea of elaborate LED lighting production for future WWE shows. Now, if I can pull up this article right here, here we go. So this was in the news. If I can pull up this article, if my notes want to cooperate tonight. So apparently, according to PW Insider, WWE sources claim that the 25,000 tickets were removed for the Royal Rumble. One person noted that they did not expect WWE to use LED lighting again. They don't expect WWE to use LED lighting again when they return to Saudi, which apparently is 2 more Saudi shows for this year, which is unfortunate. And then WrestleMania 43 next year will be in Saudi, unfortunately. But apparently WWE is scrapping the idea of the LED lighting production idea, elaborate idea for future WWE shows and even in Saudi Arabia. It said the Royal Rumble received a mixed reaction overall and stuff as well with this LED lighting stuff and all this other stuff and all that. But they had this during the Rumble last week where they had the LED elaborate lighting, and it made some portions of the arena look empty, which didn't look good. It was a bad look. It was not really a good look at all. And it looked terrible overall. It looked bad. I was not a fan of it at all. And I did notice it watching the Rumble last week when they were in Saudi a week ago. And I'll be completely honest with you guys. It looked terrible. It looked absolutely terrible. And apparently WWE is scrapping this idea. I'm actually very happy that they scrapped this idea. It looked fucking awful. And it didn't make the arena look full. And it made certain portions of the arena look empty. And that was not a good look on them at all. So WWE scrapping this idea. Good on them for scrapping this idea because that was fucking awful. Awful. So, so if you're worried about that taking place at future shows, they're going to scrap that, and rightfully so. So thank God they scrapped that production idea because that production did not come off good at all. So thank God WWE is moving away from that production idea because that was just absolutely atrocious, and it made certain spots in the arena look empty as fuck. Even though it may have looked like some seats, some of the seats were filled, it made it look like it was empty, and it was just a terrible presentation look overall for that show last week. It looked fucking god awful. So I'm very happy WWE has not doing that anymore. They're going to move on from that. So thank God with that. And other news here of this episode 11, moving on, Nick Hogan. Now Nick Hogan, for those of you who don't know Nick Hogan is the son of the late great Hulk Hogan, God rest his soul. Hulk Hogan, who sadly passed away in July of 2025 in his early 70s via cardiac arrest in his own home in Tampa, Florida. Fortunately, though, his son Nick Hogan's still alive, along with his daughter Brooke Hogan. But Nick Hogan was in front row for SummerSlam when they were in MetLife Stadium for the first ever 2-night SummerSlam. They were in MetLife Stadium in New Jersey early August of last year, and I was there both nights, by the way. I did see during the show that Nick Hogan was in the front row in the crowd near the barricade. He was shown in the front camera, and he got big cheers and stuff. And apparently WWE compensated with Nick Hogan and stuff, and did him very good. And classful act by WWE. Good on WWE with that, with Nick Hogan and stuff as well. But with Nick Hogan news, he was apparently at the WWE Performance Center, located in Orlando, Florida. And some news on Nick Hogan. Now, according to Nick Hogan was spotted at the WWE Performance Center this week. And now this report comes from Mike Johnson at PW Insider, and they stated that there is no word as to why Nick Hogan was there at the WWE Performance Center this week. It says Nick is the son of the late Hulk Hogan, like I just mentioned. It says in November, Nick was seen training with Brian Idol. Nick said at the time about a potential future in wrestling, quote, "You never know, man. It's in the blood. So you never know. I've always loved the business. Being around that environment makes me feel that much closer to my pops." It says Hulk Hogan passed away on July 24th, 2025 at the age of 71. And this was right before his 72nd birthday. And said Hulk Hogan's official cause of death was acute myocardial infarction known as a heart attack. It says Nick has attended multiple WWE events ever since his father passed away. So Nick Hogan looks like he wants to follow in his father's footsteps. I mean, good on him. And I will say this. If Nick Hogan wants to wrestle in honor of his father, go for it. I say good on him. And I would say with Nick Hogan, go for it, man. Make his father proud. And that's in his father and what his father would ever want is for his legacy to be carried. I mean, I was never the biggest Hulk Hogan fan, but facts are facts. Hulk Hogan, no matter what you think of him, I don't care what he thinks politically or what you think. I mean, and I don't care what you think of him like as a person or whatnot or as wrestler. He was not my favorite wrestler. My favorite all-time wrestlers of all time were Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Undertaker, Batista, Jeff Hardy, Daniel Bryan, those guys. Was never the biggest Hogan fan. However, Hulk Hogan, especially in the 1980s, put professional wrestling in the sport and industry, in the business of professional wrestling on the fucking map in the 80s. Without Hulk Hogan, WWE's not big mainstream like it is today. That's all because of Hogan dating all the way back to the 80s and the creation of WrestleMania, and then Hulk Hogan with his Hulkamania Runs Wild on You, brother, and repping the shirts and stuff and the red and yellow and real American music and stuff like What You Gonna Do, brother. But without Hulk Hogan, there's no WrestleMania. And without Hulk Hogan, WWE is not big in the mainstream like it is today. And he kind of invented the celebrities and wrestling like you see today. And without Hogan, WWE is not big, huge as far as mainstream like it is today. That doesn't happen ever without Hulk Hogan and stuff like that. And now Hulk Hogan's no more. He's unfortunately no longer with us. And Nick Hogan, it looks like he wants to carry on his dad's legacy. I can't sit there and shit on him for that. And if he wants to wrestle in homage and tribute to his father, I say go for it and good for him. And I would say go all the way with it, man. And if Nick Hogan wanted to ever train the Performance Center, maybe wrestle in WWE or in wrestling, or maybe go to NXT. If he wants to be a WWE wrestler, WWE superstar, and to do it to pay homage to his dad, if that's what Nick Hogan wants to do, I don't say why not, and I'm not against that at all. And I've never met Nick Hogan before, but it looks like he's a nice guy. But if he wants to wrestle, man, I have no problem with that at all. and to pay homage and honor and tribute to his dad, to wrestle to do it for his dad, I got to respect that with Nick Hogan, man, for his father. Much respect for Nick Hogan. And Hulk Hogan, no matter what you think of him, as far as pro wrestling and the industry pro wrestling is concerned, I do think Hogan's legacy should be carried on and have it be carried in Nick Hogan's hands. And sorry, let me take a drink. Sorry, I can't talk. If Nick Hogan wants to wrestle, then I have zero issue with that. And to do it in respect and honor for his dad, Hogan would be proud of his son for that. So if Nick Hogan wants to wrestle, I don't know what he was in the Performance Center for this week. If he wants to wrestle, you get no complaints out of me. Maybe he starts in like NXT or something, or an Evolve, but we'll see. But we'll see what Nick Hogan wants to do as far as maybe he wants to wrestle and do it in honor and homage to his dad. And he did say, and he's not wrong, it is in the blood. Nick Hogan is the son of Hulk Hogan, but we'll see what happens with Nick Hogan. If he wants to wrestle, hopefully he succeeds as well. So I got my eye on Nick Hogan, and hopefully he has a successful career in pro wrestling if that is what he truly wants to do. So other news right here, talking about Vengeance Day, which I did right here. Hold on. Sorry. Well, sneeze. I apologize on that. But moving on to Brock Lesnar and Oba Femi, apparently, and I got the report for this right here. Let me read this to you guys. So let's see here. So listen to this. Listen to this. Say, hold on. Sorry. Sneezing all over the place. I'm not sick or anything. Don't worry, but all good this guy. Nice ice cold water, by the way. So apparently, according to Dave Meltzer, now take him with a grain of salt. According to Dave Meltzer in the Wrestling Observer Radio, WOR, Dave Meltzer says the rumored Brock Lesnar vs. Oba Femi match reportedly not 100% for WWE WrestleMania 42. Sure thing, Dave. Sure thing. I don't believe that at all. I don't believe that at all. Why would you, like, Brock Lesnar eliminated Oba Femi in this year's Royal Rumble a week ago. There's no way they don't follow up on that and they don't have that match at this year's WrestleMania. I don't believe this report for a second. For a second. So according to the Observer, he says that the match between Lesnar and Femi isn't 100% confirmed for WrestleMania. He says, quote, "That's not 100%, by the way. It should be. I agree it should be, but it's not. I had asked about a bunch of matches for Mania, and most of them were correct as it turned out, including Reigns and Punk, although that was very clear, obviously. But the one that I was told that's not, I mean, it could happen. I'm not saying it's not happening. I'm just saying that I was told that this one's not 100%. That was the Lesnar and Oba Femi match." Now it says if the match were to happen, it would be Brock Lesnar's first WrestleMania appearance since WrestleMania 39 in 2023, where Brock Lesnar fought Omos. Not my favorite, by the way. I hope Adam Carl is watching, just so he knows. Omos is not my favorite wrestler, and I don't go to WWE. And if I do go to wrestling shows, it's not to see Omos. You know, that 7-foot Omos. That guy. He's not that good of a wrestler. Like the big NBA guy, he's over 7 feet tall. Not high on Omos at all. I think he's trash in the ring. 7-foot buffoon who has no ceiling in wrestling. Brock Lesnar fought Omos at WrestleMania 39 in Los Angeles in early April of 2023 That match was not that good, in my opinion. I was not a big fan of that match at all. And it said Lesnar missed WrestleMania 40 and 41 due to the obvious Janelle Grant lawsuit with Lesnar's name linked attached there, but now it looks like he's not, or his name wasn't mentioned much in there, or if not at all. But looks like his name is out of it, and that's why he's back on WWE TV. And apparently it was him after being reportedly eluded and later formally named in Janelle Grant's lawsuit against Vince McMahon, WWE, and John Laurinaitis. It says, as for Femi, the match at this year's WrestleMania would be the first for the former NXT champion, as he was defending the NXT championship against Trick Williams and Javon Evans in the main event of Stand and Deliver last year during WrestleMania 41 weekend in Las Vegas last year in April 2025. Meltzer says Femi and Lesnar not happening at this year's Mania. Bullshit. I smell bullshit on this one. Brock Lesnar, again, eliminated Oba Femi in the Royal Rumble a week ago. You're not going to have that and then not do the match at Mania. I think Lesnar and Femi does happen at WrestleMania. I don't believe this Meltzer report at all. And Dave Meltzer doesn't know the WrestleMania 42 card. None of the dirt sheets know anything. No dirt sheets know a damn fucking thing of what's happening at this year's Mania. The only people who know what's happening at this year's WrestleMania in Las Vegas are Triple H, Nick Khan, and Triple H's team, Triple H's administration. Dave Meltzer doesn't know a fucking thing of what's happening at this year's Mania. Brian Alvarez doesn't know, and neither do the other dirt sheets, including Fightful and PW Insider and even bodyslam.net. None of the dirt sheets know a fucking thing of what's happening at WrestleMania 42 this year in Las Vegas. Not one dirt sheet knows a fucking thing. Only Triple H, Nick Khan, and Triple H's creative team know what's going on regarding this year's Mania. The dirt sheets don't know jack shit of what's going on at this year's Mania. And Meltzer says Lesnar and Femi is not happening at this year's Mania. Yeah, right. I think it does happen at this year's Mania. I think we do get Brock Lesnar versus Oba Femi at this year's WrestleMania. And when it does happen to be one of the matches at this year's Mania, I want to see Dave Meltzer try and backtrack. Oh, well, plans change. Yeah, no shit, Dave. No shit. And this is the same man who's a paid Tony Khan AEW shill, by the way, is Dave Meltzer, who does nothing but rate matches, gives AEW matches 4 stars, 5-star matches, who hasn't worked a wrestling show in his life. And all he is a goof who just rates matches where if somebody had a 4 or 5-star match. That's all Dave Meltzer does. He doesn't know a fucking thing of what's happening at this year's Mania. Not one fucking thing. And he just does what he does to try and beg for a job and he wants to suck up to Tony Khan. He's clearly a paid AEW show paid by Tony Khan, and he just wants to beg for a job, and he wants to know everything within a wrestling company from within, with every single little detail, with every single thing with what's happening in a wrestling company. He wants to have the roster by the ball sack. He wants to just beg for a job, and he's just there for the money. That's all Dave Meltzer's doing. Honestly, even Tony Khan has some standards. Tony Khan's not a boss. He's a matchmaker. But even Tony Khan, I have to give Tony Khan credit. He even has the standard. You know, AEW and WWE don't need people like Dave Meltzer. Like, they don't owe the dirt sheets shit. And the dirt sheets don't know shit of what's happening at this year's Mania. So when Oba Femi and Brock Lesnar happens at this year's Mania, when that match is announced for WrestleMania, I'd love to see Meltzer's excuse with that. Honestly. I think we get Oba Femi versus Brock Lesnar on one of the nights at this year's Mania. I really think that's a direction they go. And you're not leaving Brock Lesnar off the WrestleMania card. No fucking way. Oba Femi is called to the main roster. He's not assigned to Raw or SmackDown yet, but he'll be on Mania this year too. He's not going to be off the card either. And no, Oba Femi's not going to be in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Catering Royal. No fucking way. Why would you put Oba Femi in the Battle Royal? You do realize winning the Andre the Giant Catering Battle Royal means fucking nothing. You win a trophy, and what does it mean? Fuck all. There's no way they're putting Oba Femi in the Battle Royal. No fucking way. And if they do put him in there, A, that's a shit creative move. And B, even if he does win it, what's it going to mean? Fucking nothing. Like, who is he going to beat in the Battle Royal? Who? Kit Wilson? Apollo Crews? 2 fucking catering VIPs? What's it going to fucking mean at the end of it? Fucking nothing. Nothing. Oba Femi is not going to be in the Andre Giant Battle Royal this year. He won't. He won't. Oba Femi will be on the WrestleMania card this year, and he will get Brock Lesnar. Mark my words. And when that happens, you can clip it here that Dave Meltzer doesn't know a fucking thing of what's going on in WWE, AEW, and he especially doesn't know what's happening at this year's WrestleMania. This is the same guy who even predicted Cody and Roman and Breakker and Punk at this year's Mania. And look what's happening now. Roman and Punk for the world title. Easy Night 2 main event for this year's WrestleMania. And then on the SmackDown WWE Championship side, Cody, Drew, and most likely Jacob Fought 2 in there. We may even get Sami Zayn and or Randy Orton in there. It's probably going to be a triple threat or fatal 4-way for the WWE title match this year at WrestleMania, which is looking probably likely. So Dave Meltzer doesn't know a damn thing what's happening with WWE, AEW, and he especially doesn't know what's happening at this year's WrestleMania. You can clip it right here. Oba Femi and Brock Lesnar will be a match, or will be one of the matches for this year's WrestleMania, for WrestleMania 42 in Las Vegas, Nevada. In Las Vegas, Nevada. Oba and Brock will happen at this year's Mania, and I'm looking forward to that. So that is what I will say on that. We will get the Beast versus the Ruler at WrestleMania 42. There is no questions asked on it. You're not going to have Lesnar eliminate Oba from the Rumble and then not do the match period at WrestleMania. They will do the match. They will do Oba and Brock at this year's Mania. Do not listen to the Observer when he says that Oba and Brock is not happening at this year's Mania. It's going to happen at this year's Mania. What Meltzer is saying with this, take it with a grain of salt. So moving on from the Brock and Oba stuff, might as well just save the AJ Styles stuff for the main event, or close to main event portion of this show. Right here. Looking at my other notes as well. Let me see. Right here. Might as well talk about this next. Chris Jericho. Apparently, Chris Jericho is, let me find the report. Let's see. Here we go. Okay. So, might as well talk about this next, moving on to the next topic. I know it's a little all over the place with AEW. What do we talk about this? All right. But moving on to the next topic of this show, Chris Jericho. Apparently, Chris Jericho is no longer under AEW contract. However, Chris Jericho is still on the AEW roster page, though he's no longer under AEW contract. The reason why Chris Jericho is still listed as a member of the AEW roster, even though his AEW contract expired. So the reason why Chris Jericho is still listed as a member of AEW on the company's roster page is simple. He is still an employee. Says there has been huge speculation about Chris Jericho's future over the past several months, with the widespread belief that his AEW deal would expire at the end of 2025, which it did. Said it was even announced when Jericho re-signed with AEW in October of 2022 that his deal would expire at the end of 2025. Says that Jericho remains on the AEW roster page, however, situated between Cash Wheeler and Christian Cage. According to Fightful Select, Jericho is actually still under contract with AEW, which I don't believe. His contract did expire, and though he's still on the roster page, I do believe his contract did expire. So that I will say on that. Says why exactly his deal didn't expire at the end of 2025 is currently unknown. This news explains why Jericho has not appeared on WWE programming yet. I expect him to be on WrestleMania this year. I will say what I think with Chris Jericho in a little bit. Says that now it says this news explains that Why Jericho has not appeared on WWE programming, as he is still under contract with AEW should the two sides want to work together. Now, Fightful did note that there's interest in Jericho from within WWE should he become a free agent. Jericho has been signed to AEW since 2019 and was the inaugural AEW World Champion. Prior to his AEW run, Jericho was a part of WWE across multiple runs from 1999 to 2018. Now, Chris Jericho is set for a upcoming Fozzy tour this month of February. Apparently Fozzy is touring in the United Kingdom this month, starting February 6th in Brighton. And it says the rock band is due to play 13 shows before finishing up on February the 21st in Wolverhampton. And that's the Fozzy UK tour for the month of February. So don't expect Jericho back on any wrestling programming as far as this month. Now, Jim Ross, apparently Jim Ross even said recently that he expects Chris Jericho to finish his career in WWE as well, which I do believe. Honestly, I do believe that very much 100%. There's nothing left for Chris Jericho to do in AEW, and he's done everything there. And what would Jericho exactly do in AEW that he has not done there yet? He's done everything. Honestly, I do think Chris Jericho. Now, he didn't come back in the Royal Rumble, and looking at the reception of the Rumble last week in Saudi, it was probably the right thing he didn't come back in the Rumble last week. And I think Jericho's return should be on American soil instead of Saudi soil. So it was probably for the better and the best thing he didn't return a week ago at the Rumble, as me and a lot of other people predicted. But do I think Chris Jericho still returned to WWE? Yes, I do. Just because even though he didn't show up at the Rumble a week ago. Now, do I think his contract has expired? Yes, even though he's still on the roster page. Who's to say Tony Khan is not trying to throw money at him just to keep him away from WWE? That's another possibility, because Tony doesn't want to lose Jericho, but because he's afraid of him going back to WWE, which would be a lot better off for it, which he will. And Tony would be foolish not to throw money at Jericho and try and keep him, do everything he can to keep him. Tony Khan would be foolish not to do that. As a businessman, I mean, why would you not do that? But all in all, as far as Chris Jericho's concerned, I do think he still comes back to WWE, despite the fact he didn't return at the Rumble last week. Now, I've been thinking about this for a while. Now, Chris Jericho, I do think he still comes back to WWE regardless. But if Jericho is going to be at WrestleMania in Las Vegas this April, and if Jericho's coming back to WWE still regardless, if Jericho coming back to WWE is still happening, this is what I'm doing. Now, hear me out and listen to this idea. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Now, remember how Cody Rhodes came back to WWE in Dallas on night one, WrestleMania 38, when he wrestled Seth Rollins, where Seth had a match against a mystery opponent, and that mystery opponent ended up being a returning Cody Rhodes after being away from WWE for 6 long years. Now, LA Knight just came back a week ago at the Royal Rumble, and he was taken into the Vision this past Monday night on Raw, which they were live from Philly this past Monday with Raw, which I thought was not that good of a show outside of the beginning with Braun Breaker destroying everything, and then in the beginning and then the end with Roman Reigns, CM Punk, and then Gunther and Dragon Lee somewhere in the middle of the show. And then Roman Reigns and CM Punk, and their very good promo at the end of Raw this past Monday in Philly, which sold me on their WrestleMania match, by the way. But LA Knight took it to the Vision this past Monday on Raw in Philly. LA Knight, I think, is on the card this year for WrestleMania, but he should be on the card in something meaningful. LA Knight versus Division is not meaningful for LA Knight for this year's Mania. It's not. LA Knight, Logan Paul doesn't really interest me at all, because LA Knight versus Logan Paul, we've been there, done that. LA Knight, Braun Breaker, I don't think that happens, because I think we get Braun Breaker and Seth Rollins at this year's Mania, which makes sense. And I think Seth does come back in time before Mania, and I think Seth does make Mania in time. And I think we get Seth versus Braun at WrestleMania this year, which makes all the fucking sense in the world. So it's not going to be LA Knight and Braun Breaker. LA Knight Logan Paul is a no for me. LA Knight Bronson Reed is a no for me. LA Knight Austin Theory, that's not a WrestleMania match at all. That's not a WrestleMania match whatsoever. So we're not doing that. LA Knight should be on WrestleMania this year in a meaningful way. Now, a meaningful way, this is what I'm thinking. You take a page out of the WrestleMania 38 Night 1 Seth vs. Mystery Opponent being Cody Rhodes playbook from WrestleMania 38 Night 1 in Dallas. You take a page out of that playbook and you apply it with one of the nights for WrestleMania 42, LA Knight on the card versus a mystery opponent, and that mystery opponent ends up being Chris Jericho. And Jericho answers the call, and we get LA Knight and Chris Jericho that way for WrestleMania this year in Las Vegas. And if you pay attention to Monday Night Raw, Adam Pearce has been getting calls lately, and Paul Heyman's brought it up from someone in higher power that doesn't like, that someone that's above Triple H that doesn't like Triple H. Now, no, it's not Vince McMahon. I don't think Vince comes back at all, and who the fuck wants Vince there? And by the way, nobody wants Vince back. Like those saying, oh, fire Triple H, bring Vince back. No. Nobody wants the old fuck Vince McMahon back. Triple H is not perfect, but it's much better with him in charge than with Vince in charge. Triple H, yes, Triple H plays it safe, but I would much, much rather him in charge than Vince in charge. At least Triple H, he gives opportunity and cares. Like Vince never gave a shit about giving opportunity. Yes, Triple H plays it safe, but to say that he sucks and get rid of him and bring Vince back, to say that is not even an opinion anymore. That's just blatant fucking stupidity at its finest. Nobody wants that old man Vince McMahon back. Nobody. Triple H may play it safe, but it doesn't mean he sucks at his job, and it doesn't mean he's worse than Vince, and it doesn't mean I'll fire his ass and bring back Vince. No. Nobody wants Vince there. Nobody. Anybody who wants Vince back has clear mental problems. You need to get your head checked. Fuck Vince McMahon, and he hated pro wrestling. Nobody, and I mean nobody, wants that old man back. Nobody wants Vince back in WWE. Nobody. Triple H is not perfect, but is it better with him than with Vince? Abso-fucking-lutely yes. Is it perfect with Triple H? No. Does he have flaws? Yes. Does he play it safe? Yes. But does it mean he's worse than Vince? Fuck no. Fuck no. Vince McMahon back in WWE would be the worst thing for them, and nobody wants that. Nobody wants Vince back in any capacity there at all. Nobody. Now, with LA Knight, I was talking about LA Knight and Chris Jericho. They may do it that way for this year's Mania, LA Knight and Chris Jericho, where Jericho's a mystery opponent, and Chris Jericho being the one to give calls to Adam Pearce that Paul Heyman has been talking about recently on Raw with someone with a high power. And Chris Jericho and Triple H have a history, and they don't like each other. They've had a history for a long time, and I think it would make sense for Jericho to be the one that has been making those phone calls to Adam Pearce, and Paul Heyman bringing that up as well. It would make sense to have Chris Jericho be the new leader of the Vision, and Seth Rollins was the leader of the Vision, and he got kicked out of his own group. I feel like with the group or a faction or stable in general, Chris Jericho is more of a leader than Seth Rollins. Like as far as leading a faction is concerned, I think Jericho is more of a leader than Rollins is, in my honest opinion. Seth Rollins, to me, love Seth Rollins, great wrestler, but I don't think he's a leader of a faction. Just my opinion. Chris Jericho, I think, Chris Jericho as a leader of a faction, I think, is a lot better than Seth as leader of a faction. That's just my opinion. I'm not hating on Seth Rollins. I'm not hating Seth Rollins at all. Not hating on the guy at all. That's just my honest and humble opinion. So I don't know if maybe Chris Jericho replaces Seth Rollins as new leader of the Vision. Who knows? Maybe it's Jericho that made the calls to Adam Pearce. It would probably make sense. Brock Lesnar, I don't think has been the one making the calls. He is close to Paul Heyman, but I don't think it's Brock Lesnar. I think it's Chris Jericho. It's not Vince McMahon. No, it's not Vince McMahon. I think it's Chris Jericho, and he's back as a heel, and we get Jericho and Knight at this year's WrestleMania, And I think Chris Jericho is revealed as a new leader of the division. So hopefully Chris Jericho is back soon by WrestleMania or at WrestleMania. But I do think Jericho comes back to WWE regardless of the fact he didn't come back a week ago at the Rumble. Despite that fact, I do think Jericho does end up back in WWE and end his career in WWE, just Chris Jericho. And I would hope we still get, and I expect to hopefully get, and hopefully we get Chris Jericho LA Knight at this year's Mania, as that'll be the only thing meaningful for LA Knight for this year's Mania. I can't think of anything else meaningful for LA Knight to do for this year's WrestleMania, honestly. So hopefully Jericho and Knight at this year's Mania is in the cards, and hopefully Chris Jericho is back come this WrestleMania season. So we'll see what happens on that regarding Chris Jericho's fate in professional wrestling, as I do think he ends up, I do think he still ends up back in WWE, despite that his AEW contract is up, and that despite the fact he's still on the AEW roster page. Despite that, I do think now, despite all that, I do think ultimately he ends up back in home in WWE at the end of the day. But we'll see. But my prediction stands. I think regardless of all this, Jericho still ends up back in the WWE and finishes his wrestling career home in the WWE. Does Chris Jericho? I think he ends up back home in WWE. He wrestles for 1 or 2 more years, and then he goes in the Hall of Fame. That's what I firmly believe. So that's just my take on that. Let me know what you guys think on that in the comments below. What you think happens with Chris Jericho? Does he stay in AEW? Does he sign a new deal with Tony Khan? Or does he go back home to World Wrestling Entertainment and finishes his career in World Wrestling Entertainment? So, done talking about Chris Jericho. I might as well talk about this discussion. Hangman Adam Page apparently took a recent photo with former indie wrestler and Ring of Honor New Japan wrestler Marty Scurll, who was blacklisted by the wrestling community in 2026 years ago due to the speaking out movement. Let me pull up the article here. Right here. So, looks so when the article, here it is. So apparently Adam Page and Marty Scurll met a decade ago and have remained friends since, and have remained friends also despite Scurll's personal controversy. Again, this was during the speaking out movement in somewhere in 2020 during the COVID-19 pandemic. Now it says, despite being considered a face of goodwill by many pro wrestling fans, 1/3 of the AEW World Trios champions and former AEW World Champion Hangman Adam Page, he recently encountered some controversy regarding his association with a former member of the Elite in the Villain Marty Scurll. Now it says the Villain Marty Scurll was once a close associate with the likes of Adam Page, the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, and other members of the Bullet Club or the Elite during their time in New Japan Pro Wrestling and Ring of Honor, before AEW was even a thing. Now it says the Bullet and the Bullet Club, a group that would rise in prominence and eventually join forces to form AEW, All Elite Wrestling. It says he would help lead the creative team in Ring of Honor with Marty Scurll for a period of time, and it appeared that a jump to AEW was inevitable. But apparently it didn't happen whatsoever. In 2020, Marty Scurll was accused of engaging in sexual misconduct with a 16-year-old girl in the UK at a gathering in 2015 with being a sexual predator, pedophile. And Scurll would then claim that both parties were intoxicated and that he believed that the encounter was consensual at the time. The age of consent where the alleged incident occurred is 16. Regardless, he was investigated by Ring of Honor and eventually released from his deal as head booker. He has largely also remained outside of the mainstream pro wrestling scene since. And then apparently, this was recent in January, Scurll posted a picture with Page on Instagram outside of a Cracker Barrel restaurant, prompting a swell of negativity towards Adam Page for remaining associated with an individual accused of sexual misconduct. Speaking exclusively with the takedown of SI Sports Illustrated on Sunday about a variety of topics, Adam Page discussed the photo and his friendship with Marty Scurll as well. Page noted that he spent nearly half a decade traveling the world with Scurll, and the two grew very close. He said that when the allegations against Scurll emerged, he was in disbelief. The alleged time frame of the encounter, he said, was prior to Page becoming friendly with him. Quote, I think when that happened, I was obviously surprised, shocked. It didn't seem like the person that I knew, Page said. But I knew now that it was, and I guess I was kind of like faced with a choice. Like, what do I do? Like, what to do with that information? And I reached out to him I reached out to him then because he had faced a lot of consequences from the public. He had lost his job from Ring of Honor. He was facing consequences from people online. So I checked to see how he's doing, and I remained in touch with him for, since then has been 6 years. The two-time AEW World Champion Adam Page then noted that despite the sustained relationship, he believes what Scurll is accused of having engaged in was wrong. Quote, I guess I kind of will make a couple things clear about it. I completely recognize that what he did, his actions are abhorrent, disgraceful. They are. There's no excuse. I completely recognize that, he said. I've always thought that, will always think that about his actions, and I guess as a consequence of his actions, the public has felt strongly about what he did. And for 6 years, I think because of those reactions, he's been unable to be a part of mainstream professional wrestling because of, what the public perception would be. Page then said he never intended for the photo of the two of them to be posted publicly and had been wanting to address some of the backlash he received. Quote, I don't want that photo to seem like some kind of endorsement or I have any interest whatsoever in whitewashing what he did or any interest or intention of rehabilitating his public image, he said. None of that is something that I've ever been interested in doing, not now, not ever. And I think that the consequences of his actions that he's had mostly from the public, aside from like harassment, I think they've been warranted. So I kind of want to make that clear. 34-year-old Adam Page has been recognized by wrestling fans over the years for his willingness to engage in social matters. Even in speaking with the takedown, he made note of what he believes is an abhorrent time in American history, acknowledging that it's hard to go about his daily life as, quote, government forces are kidnapping and murdering people in the street. Yet the photo with Scurll brought criticism from around social media, and he says fans are entitled to feel however they may about the situation. Quote, if you hear all that and you listen to all that, you feel like maybe you wouldn't have done the same thing you had been in my shoes, or maybe you still feel uncomfortable being a fan of mine, or even if you've lost. Like the smallest amount of respect for me because of any of that, I would just want to say I completely understand that. I can respect it and accept it, he said. This is Adam Page. The takedown of SI Sports Illustrated then asked Page why, despite the graphic nature of the allegations and public response to them, he has decided to sustain a friendship with his former stablemate. He admitted that he has revisited how he feels about continued relationships since the photo emerged. Quote, I guess who I am is, when people treat me with kindness, I try to return it. So like treating people accordingly, which I can respect. Like if you're going to be an asshole and you come off, like if you're an asshole and you act that way towards somebody, you get treated that way. But if you're nice, then it's all smiles and good. So I can understand that from where Adam Page is coming from. I get it. Says that I have never really wanted to get into that, is Adam Page, and that's more or less what I have a private relationship with him. Not out of a sense of self-preservation or shame or something like that, but more or less, I just would never want that to be misconstrued as an endorsement or an effort to rehabilitate someone's public image, something like that. But I guess I've just always thought that he's still a human being and that relationships are complicated, but they're still relationships and he's still a human being. End quote. Now, I know Adam Page has been getting a lot of shit, and I know he's still friends with Marty Scurll, and he's going to get shit because he's still associated with Marty Scurll and what Marty Scurll did 6 years ago, and Adam Page still friends with him despite that. And Adam Page is getting shit on that from people on social media and stuff like that. Now, do I agree with what Marty Scurll did 6 years ago? Absolutely not. Do I think what he did was terrible and just inexcusable? Yes. I don't condone like any kind of like sexual harassment or being a pedophile or sexual predator and sexually harassing young kids. I don't condone that kind of behavior whatsoever. That's not acceptable or okay at all. And I don't agree with what Marty Scurll did. I think it's inexcusable with what he did. But I mean, great wrestler, and I've watched his now. Was he now great wrestler? Marty Scurll is yes, and I've watched him on the Indies before the Speaking Out movement, and I've watched him wrestle live, front row at Hammerstein Ballroom at a Ring of Honor taping in June of 2018, which I was there live, by the way. So I've seen him wrestle live, and he's a very good wrestler. But do I agree with what he did 6 years ago as a person? No, I don't. However, if Adam Page and Marty Scurll are still friends despite what happened with Marty Scurll 6 years ago, and I know people are giving Adam Page shit because what Marty Scurll did 6 years ago, and Adam Page is still friends with him, and Adam Page is getting shit because of that. I will say this. I mean, am I gonna shit on Adam Page? Like, I'm not defending what Marty Scurll did at all. I think what he did was inexcusable, and there's no excuse for what Marty Scurll did 6 years ago. I'm not. I don't allow that kind of behavior. I'm not okay with that kind of behavior to sexually harass people. Not okay with that behavior at all. Not okay. Not okay with that. And not okay with people murdering someone like Chris Benoit did to Nancy and Daniel in June 07 when he did a double murder suicide. That's not okay either. That is totally unacceptable, and I don't accept that kind of behavior. Period. And sexual misconduct and being a child predator and sexually harassing young kids. I'm not okay with that either, also. But if Adam Page is still friends with him, despite what happened with Marty Scurll 6 years ago, listen, I'm not gonna shit on Adam Page for that. I mean, who Adam Page's friends are is his business, and it's none of my business. Unless you live in the same, unless someone lives in the same neighborhood as them. I mean, people are gonna have their takes on Adam Page now, but unless you are neighbors with Adam Page, I mean, Adam Page's friends are Adam Page's business, and it's nobody else's business. I could care less who Adam Page's friends are. That's his business. That's his life. Now, at the same time, am I defending Marty Scurll? Absolutely not. Am I okay with what Marty Scurll did 6 years ago? Absolutely not. But even though what he did 6 years ago, he was still a great wrestler. And even though he's not in a good public image right now, that doesn't mean Adam Page shouldn't be friends with him anymore. Adam Page and his friends is Adam Page's business, and it's none of my business or anybody else's business. And I don't think and even with Adam Page still friends with Marty Scurll, despite of what happened with Marty Scurll, the Speaking Out movement 6 years ago in 2020, I don't think anything less of Adam Page. I don't. As long as Adam Page is a good person in general, as long as he's a good wrestler, is Adam Page, listen, that's all I care about. And as long as he puts on a good show with a good match of his every Wednesday on Dynamite, as long as Adam Page is giving us the best performance possible every Wednesday, listen, that's all I care about. I don't care who Adam Page's friends are. I just want Adam Page to give us a good show every Wednesday on TBS on Dynamite, and that is all I care about. I don't care who Adam Page's friends are outside of the ring, and that's his business and his business only. That's just my take on that regarding Adam Page and Marty Scurll in that situation. It sucks what happened to Marty Scurll 6 years ago, what got leaked out. It's sad, and because he was a great wrestler and he tarnished his own image. But that doesn't mean Adam Page, but it doesn't mean me or anyone else should dictate who Adam Page should be friends with and who Adam Page should not be friends with. That's his business, and that's his business only. It's just my take on that. But despite what happened 6 years ago with Marty Scurll and Adam Page still being friends with him, despite that, hey, I don't like Adam Page, and I don't think anything less of him. Who his friends are is his business, and I could care less about what his business are, what his life is, and I don't care about that. Like, why should you care about that? I don't care what is and what's not. I don't care about that. All I care about is people going out there and giving us a good show every single week, whether it's WWE or AEW. That's all I care about at the end of the day. So, moving on from Adam Page and Marty Scurll, I was thinking of also talking about Clark Connors. We won't waste too much time on this. Apparently, Clark Connors, according to Fightful, while it's not confirmed yet, it is expected that Clark Connors is expected to sign with AEW as Clark Connors. Now, he's apparently from New Japan. Apparently, he's expected to go to AEW. David Finlay may follow as well. I think David Finlay goes to WWE and NXT. I think they need him more than AEW does. If David Finlay goes to AEW, he's not going to do much. He's just going to be just another body on Tony Khan's roster, and Tony Khan's overbloated roster to begin with as well. I don't think David Finlay's going to fare well in AEW at all. I think his best bet is NXT, plus his dad, Fit Finlay, is there. So I think David Finlay's, I think he goes to WWE. I think his best bet is WWE. Clark Connors in AEW. Clark Connors, good talent, but he won't do much in AEW under Tony Khan. Tony Khan will get excited about him for 3-4 weeks, like shiny new toy. Then Tony will get bored of him very quick, and then you'll put him away in the used toy chest to collect dust for 16 to 20 weeks to only use him when he wants to, and then that's a shame. And it's like Tony Khan, every time he brings someone new into AEW, he treats everyone like a shiny new toy. Then he gets bored of him within 4 weeks, less than 4 weeks, and he puts them away in the big toy chest to use them when he wants, and he has them collect dust for 20 weeks to only then remember he's got them at his disposal, and it's a shame. And this is why I don't trust Tony Khan with Tomasso Ciampa at all. I think Ciampa is sadly going to suffer the same fate as everyone else that signs with AEW. You know? I mean, look at Ace Austin. It didn't take long for him to be exclusively only the Collision, a show that nobody watches. That didn't take long there. Rascals, Rascals the same thing. I expect the same thing with Ciampa, unfortunately. I don't want it to happen, but I don't trust Tony Khan with really anybody at all that comes into AEW. That's just me. And I expect the same thing, sadly, with Clark Connors if he does indeed go to AEW. So, Clark Connors apparently going to AEW, that's not going to move the needle. That's not going to do much. And Tony Khan's got an overbloated roster to begin with. And this is the last thing Tony Khan needs, is to sign more people. Just work with the roster you currently have now and stop signing people left and right. When you have an overbloated roster to begin with, and 85% of your roster, Tony Khan, you're not even using. Either use the people you're not using or just let them go instead of holding them hostage. And the people you're not using, they could be on TV to make your product better, but you have no fucking plans for them. And if you have no fucking plans for them, Tony, just release them. If you have no plans for like Brett Baker, which we'll talk about, if you have no plans for Brett Baker, have no plans for Wardlow, Private Party, Keith Lee. If you have Brian Cage, if you have no plans for Athena or anybody else that's on the AEW roster that's not doing jack shit, if you have no, or like Jamie Hayter even, I'll put her in there too. If you're not doing anything with these people on your roster, Tony, if you're not doing anything with them, either use them in a meaningful way to make your product better, or just let them go and have them go elsewhere where they'll be a lot better off, because you don't have any plans for them and you're not going to use them. If you were going to use them, you could have done it months ago, but you're not going to use them at all. So just let them go at that point. And you have an overbloated roster to begin with. You could use some mass releases to help your overbloated roster problem. You're signing way too many wrestlers to begin with. Signing more and more people should be the last thing on your mind. What should be on your mind is not signing more people. That should not be in your mind. What you should be doing, Tony, is fixing your product, because your product fucking sucks. It sucks. The last thing you need is signing more talent. Start being more of a booker and start working with the current roster that you currently have right now. You don't need to go out and sign any more new people, because the more you sign new people like Brian Cage get pushed down the card. People like Samoa Joe and Hook and others like Wardlow. I don't know if I mentioned them or not. People like Private Party, people like a bunch of others, Josh Alexander. Speedball, Kevin Knight, people like them, Takeshita, people like them get pushed more down the card the more you sign new people to AEW. You don't need to sign any more people. Just work with the current roster you have right now, because 85% of your roster you're not doing fuck all with. You're not doing fuck all with 85% of your roster. Use them or let them go. Simple as that. You don't need to sign more fucking talent with your overloaded roster problems that you have to fucking begin with. You don't need to sign more fucking talent. You don't. That's the last thing that you should be doing. And the more you sign talent, the more people you're not doing anything with are going to be more unhappy. And is it really worth it, Tony? I don't think so. Is it worth icing them? No, it is not. I don't know if they're creating another AEW show. That is another last thing they need. Collision no one watches, and Dynamite is in the shitter with their ratings, and their product's ice cold. We don't need to create another third AEW show. That'll be just like Rampage, which got canceled. It'll be just like Collision, which nobody watches. What, are you going to create a third AEW show? Go ahead. I dare you. And I want to see how that works out, Tony. I want to see how that works out. Like, what are we doing here? Why are we adding more and more and more and more people to your overbloated fucking roster? Why? Why? Just, you don't need any more talent at this time. Work with your current roster and just be more of a booker instead of worrying about what's going on the outside, and start worrying about more so what's going on currently in AEW with your current roster that you currently have at your disposal. Point blank, period. And I might as well lead to this. Apparently, Tony Khan is expanding the AEW roster more. And actually, I'm going to pull this up. Listen to this. Listen to this. So, apparently, and this is, if I can find the report. So, this is according to Fightful Select and Sean Ross Sapp. Apparently, AEW is continuing to expand its roster and sign more talent to the company, noting that more additions to the women's division will be made fairly soon. Sapp would then go on to reveal that there are reportedly a number of talents currently signed to AEW that haven't been made public as of yet. Who they are, I don't know. And apparently, Billy Kay and Peyton Royce, who were in TNA as the inspiration, apparently they're no longer in TNA. Apparently, they're going to be in AEW probably. And that's not going to move the fucking needle. That's not going to move the needle. They were not funny in WWE. They were not funny or good in TNA. What makes you think they're going to be any different in AEW? They'll be the same fucking thing in AEW like they were in WWE and TNA. I guarantee it. Yeah, there's the AEW Women's Tag Division, but that is the ceiling for Billy Kay and Peyton Royce in AEW. They will go fucking nowheres in AEW. Mark my words. Mark my words. What are Billy Kay and Peyton Royce going to do for TNA? They will not do shit. It's not going to move the needle. It's not going to bring in interest. There'll just be two more other bodies on Tony Khan's already overbloated roster. Again, you don't need to sign any more talent to AEW. I wouldn't even bring AJ Styles to AEW or sign him. Maybe just have a match or two, but you don't need to sign AJ Styles. You don't. You don't. Again, last thing Tony Khan needs is sign more fucking talent to his roster. He's doing nothing with 85% of his roster. And what makes you think the Iconics are going to fare any good in AEW? They weren't even that good in WWE or in TNA. You think they're going to be any different in All Elite Wrestling? Yeah, right. Yeah, right. They'll be the same exact thing in AEW like they were in WWE and TNA. Directionless and nobody giving a fuck. I guarantee it. And apparently more additions to the women's roster. So, yeah, let's add more additions to the AEW women's roster. We push more so Jamie Hayter down the card, and Thunder Rosa down the card. Camille, who? I mean, like Camille, is she still employed? Camille? Like, she was a beast on the indies. And then you have her in AEW a couple years ago, and now she's in Guantanamo Bay, not being used. When AEW could use someone like Camille, but Tony Khan is not going to use her. I don't know when Camille's contract is up, but honestly, that contract can't come up fast enough. She's doing fuck all there, and she's actually talented, and Camille deserves a lot better. She would be a very nice addition to the NXT women's division, especially now you called up Jordan Grace to the main roster. But I expect Soruka and JC Jane at least to be called up to the main roster soon as well in the next few months for WWE. And Camille will be a nice addition to NXT. And Camille's not doing anything in AEW. Just let her go. Jamie Hayter, same thing. You're not doing anything with her. Let her go. Thunder Rosa, where is she? You're not doing anything with her. Let her go. Anybody you're not using, is it really worth holding them fucking hostage just so they don't go to WWE? Just let them go. If they're not happy, if somebody is in AEW and they're not happy and they do not want to be there, plain and simple, Tony Khan, let them walk. Let them walk. Plain and fucking simple. Why keep them on AEW, make them more disgruntled and more unhappy? Why? Like what? Why? Because you don't want them going to WWE and they'll be a lot better off there. It'll make you look stupid, Tony. Like, what difference does it make? Tony Khan looks bad either way, whether he keeps them and holds them hostage, or if they go to WWE and they're better off in WWE than they ever were in AEW. Either way, Tony Khan looks bad at the end of the day with all this shit. Either way, Tony Khan looks fucking bad. So what difference does it make? If somebody in AEW is there and doesn't want to be there and deserves better and is that fucking unhappy and doesn't want to be there, why keep them still around? Just do the right thing, Tony Khan, and just let them go. You finally did it with Ray Phoenix last year and with Ricky Saints last year, and you let Malachi Black go rightfully last year. Why can't you do the same thing with Thunder Rosa, Camille, and Jamie Hayter? And anybody else that's unhappy there doesn't want to be there. Why? Why? Just let them go if you're not going to use them, because clearly you have zero plans for them. You don't plan on bringing them back, and you're not going to bring them back. You're not bringing Britt Baker back. You're not bringing Private Party back. You're not bringing Keith Lee back. Where's Keith Lee? Where is he? If you're not doing anything with some of these guys and girls in AEW, Tony, just let them go. Just simply let them go. And I may as well stick with the AEW stuff. And Tony Khan and Britt Baker. I might as well stick to this here. I got my take on Tony Khan and Britt Baker, and this is actually comical with Tony Khan. And listen to this shit. Listen to this. So Tony Khan was apparently interviewed about Britt Baker. Like this is what he said. If I can find the article, you're gonna love this. This is actually hilarious. So if I can find the report, if I can ever find the report, so this is very fucking comical and hilarious to say the least. So let me find the reports right here. Let me see. So this according to at Battlegrounds IHR. So Tony Khan apparently said what he expects about Britt Baker. He says he expects to see Britt Baker back in AEW, but he doesn't want to say when. Sure thing, TK. Sure fucking thing, buddy. You ain't bringing Britt Baker back. If you wanted to bring her back, you could have brought her back and should have brought her back last year. But here's the thing. And listen to this. Britt Baker, you want to know the last time she was on AEW TV? Late 2024. She was not on AEW TV all of 2025. All of 2025, Britt Baker was not on AEW television. What the fuck does that tell you? What does that tell you? Britt Baker's not coming back. You know when Britt Baker will be back on TV? On WWE TV. When Britt Baker's AEW contract is up, which apparently it's up this fall, when her contract's up, guess where she's going? Not AEW. She's going right to WWE and will be a lot better off for it. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. Tony Khan's not bringing Britt Baker back. If he wanted to, he should have done it and could have done it a year ago, but he did not. He simply sent Britt to Guantanamo Bay because he didn't like what Britt said when Britt Baker was in the ring, when Serena Deeb was on the AEW Dynamite ramp, and Britt Baker was telling Serena Deeb, nobody cares. And I mean, is Britt Baker wrong? I mean, a program with Britt Baker, Serena Deeb, like, who gives a shit? Like, who cares about Serena Deeb in 2024, 2025, 2026? Nobody. I mean, tell Britt Baker when she's telling lies, honestly. So, Tony Khan says this, quote, as I will take a sip of my drink first before we listen to this comical report from an interview from Tony Khan. Grab another water, but then I got a second spare water. So, nice ice cold water, some good shit. So, quote from Tony Khan, quote, I really like Britt Baker. I really like Britt Baker a lot. And I think there's so many exciting things happening in the women's division. So Britt's somebody I really like and respect a lot, and definitely think as we've evolved with more tag matches, with more tag teams and singles wrestling opportunities now across multiple shows, now that we have 4 hours of TV with Dynamite and Collision, I think there's going to be more and more opportunities. You're seeing I'm signing a lot more young wrestlers. And Britt's still somebody very highly regarded and respected here in AEW, so I would expect to see Britt back in AEW. Yeah, again, sure thing, Tony. Sure thing. I just don't want to say when. Yeah, right. It'll be a good thing for everybody when Britt returns. And I think it's going to be very, very good in terms of for AEW right now. When you look at how the roster has evolved, there's more and more fresh matches. Britt's somebody I would absolutely love to have back in AEW soon. Tony Khan says, I would love to have Britt Baker back in AEW soon. Tony, aren't you the boss of AEW? Aren't you the one calling the shots and having the final say of AEW? Huh? Aren't you the one that has the final say every single thing as far as AEW is concerned? Aren't you the boss of your own company, Tony? Oh, I'd love to have Britt Baker back. Well, you're the boss. Why is she not back? Why is she not back? Oh, I know why. Because you, Tony, didn't like what Britt had to say a couple years ago about AEW. And now she's sent to Guantanamo Bay being punished wrongfully. And she's there until her contract's up, which is a shame. Which I'm sure she does. She's one of those people that doesn't want to be there. And again, like I said moments ago, if somebody in AEW is not happy, let them go. And Britt Baker's unfortunately in Guantanamo Bay until her contract's up this September. Well, Tony could just let her go now. Why wait till September to let her go when you could just let her go now? And you're not going to do anything with her anyway. So you could just let her go now and just be done with it. You're not going to use her. Just let her go now. Why fucking wait till the fall to do it when you could do it now? Just let her go now if she's that unhappy there, which I'm sure she's that unhappy in AEW at this time. And Tony says, I'd love to have Britt Baker back. Again, Tony, you are the boss. You are the boss, Tony, right? If you wanted Britt Baker back on AEW television so bad, why didn't you bring her back last year when you had all of last year to bring her back, but you chose not to? And now you say, oh, I'd love to have Britt Baker back. What a fucking... Like it's legit comedy hour in AEW with Tony and with his interviews, man. Like, you don't even need to go to a circus, honestly. You have a circus right here with Tony Khan and his interviews. Oh, I'd love to have Britt Baker back. then you could have. Then you had all this fucking time last year, Tony, to bring her back. Now all of a sudden you want to bring her back. And also, so Tony Khan would love to have Britt Baker back in AEW. Had all this time Tony bring it back last year, and Britt Baker again was off TV for AEW all of last year. What does that tell you, ladies and gentlemen? If Tony didn't bring her back at all last year, then that means Tony is not bringing back Britt Baker at all. She's not coming back to AEW. I would be shocked if she does. Britt Baker's not coming back to AEW TV. Britt Baker's not coming back. But you know when she will come back? It won't be on AEW TV, I can assure you. I guarantee you, when Britt Baker is finally free from that prison known as AEW, I guarantee she goes right to WWE. And she'll be a lot better off there. And look, Britt Baker and the problems she caused in AEW, it might be true. But even with the problems that, even if she did cause in AEW, do I think she'll do the same things in WWE? Absolutely not. I don't. And she won't. And what she did and the drama she caused in AEW, she won't do in WWE, because there's real leadership in WWE, and Triple H is a real boss. Tony Khan is not a boss. Tony Khan is just a big fucking money mark. He wants to be friends with everybody on the roster. He doesn't want to deal with the responsibilities of being a boss, and he just wants to be friends and buddy with everybody. He's a mark. He's not a boss. He's a nice guy, but he's not a boss or a leader whatsoever. AEW has no leadership at the top whatsoever. Inmates run the asylum in AEW. Tony Khan doesn't have any discipline for his wrestlers on his roster. He just lets them do whatever they want. Where WWE, there are rules and boundaries, and there's real leadership at the top. The wrestlers in WWE have to follow by the rule, have to abide by the rules, where AEW, it's like a free-for-all, and everybody just does what they want, and there's no consequences for their actions whatsoever, where you could get away with that in AEW, but you can't do that in WWE, because there's real leadership and structure in WWE, where AEW has none of that. That's the big difference between WWE and AEW. AEW is just bad, and WWE, there's just no excitement right now. They're also bad. There's not much going for them right now at all. Hopefully that changes soon. Like, we got a little start of that with CM Punk and Roman Reigns from this past Monday on Raw. Hopefully that's some start of a change with that. We'll see. But both companies have nothing going for them right now at this time, especially AEW. But if there's a big difference between WWE and AEW, is that WWE has actual leadership. AEW does not. AEW has no leadership whatsoever. And if Britt Baker were to leave AEW and go to WWE, the bullshit and the drama and the chaos and trouble that Britt Baker caused in AEW, if she went to WWE, I don't think she would do those same things like she did in AEW in WWE. I think she'd be a much better person in WWE. She'd be a lot more mature. She'll grow up, and it'll be a completely different person with Britt Baker in WWE than she was in AEW. I really do. And even like, and the same thing I even think with Chris Jericho, even if he caused problems in AEW with him calling CM Punk a cancer and stuff, and CM Punk's back in WWE, he caused problems in AEW too, just like Jericho and Baker. And even though CM Punk caused trouble in AEW and he's back in WWE, have we had one problem with Punk back in WWE? No, not one at all. Because there's real leadership in WWE. AEW has zero leadership at the top. Zero. And everyone thought when CM Punk came back to WWE 3 years ago at the 2023 Survivor Series in Chicago, when CM Punk came back to WWE for the first time in almost a decade, everyone thought the problems he caused in AEW, everyone thought when he came back to WWE, give it 2, 3, 4 months and he'll cause problems in WWE like he did in AEW. And ever since Punk's been back for a couple years now, not one chaos problem has Punk caused in WWE? Not one. And if Chris Jericho came back to WWE, even if he caused problems and drama and crap in AEW, would he do those same things in WWE? No. Britt Baker, same thing. The BS she caused in AEW, would she do those same things in the locker room in WWE? The answer is no. The answer is no. Because Triple H is a leader. Triple H is a boss. He had a bad year creatively 2025. He may play it safe like he has for the past year. But if there's a big difference between Triple H and Tony Khan, is that Triple H is a leader. Paul Levesque is a leader. Tony Khan is not a leader at all. And if Britt Baker were to go to WWE again, what she did in AEW, I guarantee you she'd be a completely different person if she went to WWE. I firmly believe that. And I do think Britt Baker makes the jump to WWE whenever she's free from the prison known as AEW. And hopefully she does, and I think she will. I'm very sure Britt Baker will be one of the next to jump ship from AEW to WWE. And she certainly won't be the last to jump from AEW to WWE. I can assure you that as well. So we'll see what happens with Britt Baker. And even if she caused problems in AEW too, does it mean to ice her and send her to Guantanamo Bay? No. She may have caused BS in AEW, but it doesn't mean punish her this fucking hard. That's just cruel at that point, honestly. Hopefully Britt Baker gets out of AEW and she goes to WWE whenever she's free from Tony Khan and AEW. And again, if she went to WWE, I am telling you right now, Britt Baker goes to WWE, she will cause zero problems in WWE like she did in AEW. I promise you that. So we'll see what happens with Britt Baker. Hopefully she's all right. But if anything happens with Britt Baker, AEW status, if she jumps to AEW or if she's coming back in Tony Khan's AEW company, whatever happens with Britt Baker, I will keep you guys updated. We'll see what happens with Dr. DMD, the dentist Britt Baker in professional wrestling. And I do think at the end of the day, she leaves AEW whenever her contract's up and she does make the official jump to WWE. And I think she'll be a much better and bigger star there than she was in AEW. And I think she'll be better off for it in WWE than Britt Baker herself ever was in AEW. Just my take on that. So moving on from the Tony Khan, Britt Baker situation as well. I think I mentioned 2 more Saudi shows for WWE in 2026. We're not going to talk about much of that at all. I don't really care for the Saudi shows. Probably like King, Queen of the Ring or Crown Jewel, something like that. I don't care much of that at all. Talked about Clark Connors. We got Ricochet, Michael Hayes, AJ Styles talk about as well. Talk about Tony Khan expanding the AEW roster. Might as well talk about Grayson Waller. Apparently, he was the masked man at the Royal Rumble who attacked Braun Breaker right before the men's Rumble at the Rumble a week ago. Kind of looked like Grayson Waller. If you've seen on social media the up close of the masked man a week ago at the Rumble that cost Braun Breaker the Rumble a week ago in Saudi and stuff, looked to be like Grayson Waller, though, with the masked man attacking and screwing Braun Breaker. Ultimately, I think it's Seth Rollins, but he couldn't make the flight to Saudi, so I had the Grayson Waller take the role. But I do think they're going to drag this out a bit. They have now, with Monday Night Raw having Elimination Chamber qualifying matches. Now, the Elimination Chamber qualifying matches started last night on SmackDown as Randy Orton and Tiffany Stratton qualified for the chambers, the men and women's chamber matches for the Elimination Chamber at the end of this month, February 28th in Chicago, which I think is the United Center, I believe. I could be wrong, but it's in Chicago. But there's also Elimination Chamber qualifying matches this Monday on Raw. I expect Braun Breaker to be one of the participants to qualify for the men's chamber. And if he is in the men's chamber, I expect Seth Rollins to be in Chicago and screw Breaker out of the chamber. Probably a masked man curb stomps Breaker, costs him the chamber, and the masked man takes the mask off and it's revealed to be Seth Rollins. And I think it leads to Seth Rollins versus Braun Breaker as one of the matches on WrestleMania 42, which makes sense because Seth was kicked out of his own group months ago in the fall and stuff. I think that's the direction they go. And looking at Seth Rollins in recent interviews on social media, the man looks fine. It looks like he's about to be good to go, and it looks like he's cleared and good to go for WrestleMania. And I do think Seth makes it back in time for Mania, and I do think he makes the WrestleMania card. I do think he makes it back on TV in time for WrestleMania. That's what I think on that. And I think ultimately, though, Grayson Waller took the place last week with the Rumble as a masked man. I don't think Grayson Waller is really the masked man at all. I think that would be lame. I think it's Seth Rollins, honestly, that is going to be revealed ultimately as the masked man, and is going to cost Braun Breaker the chamber in Chicago. And I think it ultimately leads to Seth and Braun at WrestleMania. That I think is a direction they go as well. But Grayson Waller was the masked man that attacked Braun Breaker right before the Rumble a week ago in Saudi at the Rumble. But that was that with Grayson Waller. But again, ultimately, at the end of the day, I think Seth is going to be revealed as the masked man that has been costing Braun Breaker lately with the Rumble and then the Elimination Chamber. That's what I think on that with Seth Rollins. Other news as well, Royce Keys, apparent main roster brand destination for Royce Keys. Now, Royce Keys, the former powerhouse Hobbs, made his WWE debut last week in Saudi Arabia in the men's 2026 Royal Rumble as Royce Keys, the former Will Hobbs. Now he's Royce Keys in WWE. Apparently, his main roster brand destination is apparently with SmackDown. Now, if I can pull up this report, I think it was, here we go. If I can find here we go. On the brand destination, if my news ever wants to load, here we go. So apparently according to bodyslam.net, Royce Keys was backstage at Raw this past Monday in Philly, live from Philly. But apparently he is not going to be placed on Raw. Apparently, sources told the outlet that Royce Keys is expected to be a part of the SmackDown brand roster moving forward. And apparently he's going to be on SmackDown, on the SmackDown roster. It says that he was in the Rumble last week in Saudi at entry number 14. He did eliminate Damian Priest in there as well before being eliminated by Bronson Reed. He was in there for a while, but was out by the Vision's Bronson Reed. But apparently, but yeah, Royce Keys is going to Friday night and is going to be placed on the SmackDown brand, which I think is the right brand for Royce Keys. If the rumors are true that Oba Femi is going to Raw, I don't think Oba Femi and Royce Keys should be in the same brand, in my opinion. So if Oba Femi is going to Raw, I think it makes more sense for putting Royce Keys on SmackDown instead of Raw. I think him on SmackDown at this time is the way to go, in my opinion, and stuff like that. Now, we didn't see Royce Keys debut on SmackDown last night, which I thought was kind of weird. We didn't see him last night on SmackDown at all, not even a vignette for him. I don't know if he's still going to be on SmackDown. I think he still does. I think Royce Keys still does end up on Friday nights, but I think maybe what they do with Royce Keys, now this is just a thought. I don't know if they hold him off till maybe WrestleMania, and maybe we get Trick Williams and Carmelo Hayes for the United States Championship at WrestleMania one-on-one. And they debut Royce Keys there as a heel to help Trick Williams win the U.S. title from Carmelo Hayes, and Royce Keys is like the muscle or the insurance policy for Trick Williams, like a similar Triple H Batista, similar like Evolution pairing with Royce and Trick on SmackDown. Who knows? That Royce Keys paired with Trick Williams may not be a bad idea. I would actually like that as a Trick Williams Royce Keys pairing on Friday Night SmackDown, with Trick Williams as the U.S. champion coming out of WrestleMania. I think that would be very nice. I would not mind that either. Maybe they do hold off Royce Keys off SmackDown until WrestleMania, and they have him make his official debut as part of the SmackDown roster there. Maybe. Who knows what they want to do with Royce Keys, but that could be a possibility. Does he make the WrestleMania card? And if he does, against whom? Maybe, I don't know if against Damian Priest. He's a former world champion. He did eliminate Priest from the Rumble. They could go with that. I don't know how likely that is. I'm not sure how well, if that's going to come off well at all, because Priest has been ice cold lately, as Damian Priest has. So I don't know if they go that direction. Who knows? But I'm very excited to see how they do Royce Keys. I think he'll do well for himself, and I think he'll kill it on SmackDown. I think that's the right destination for him. He could have. Now, I would have loved to see him start in NXT first just to get his feet wet. Now, he could still go down there. Now that, and Joe Hendry's now NXT champion, he needs some challengers. Maybe he still goes to NXT for a cup of coffee, then heads to SmackDown. Who knows what they want to do? But either way, I'm very intrigued to see how they book Royce Keys, and I think he will do well for himself in WWE. And he decided to take a chance on himself, a less pay than he would. And with AEW having more pay, he chose not that, but he chose a less pay with WWE and to have his career advance more and to bet on himself. And I respect him for that. And I think he'll do well in WWE. So we'll see what happens with Royce Keys now that he's in WWE. And I don't even hate the Royce Keys name. Apparently his young, I think his son is like 8 years old. His son's name is Royce. And Will Hobbs changed his name in WWE from Will Hobbs or Powerhouse Hobbs to Royce Keys. And the Royce Keys WWE name, I don't even hate at all. You know, we all complained about Mariah May when she came to WWE last summer and she was changed to Blake Monroe. I wasn't a fan of it when that happened, but eventually it grew on me. And I actually like the name now, Blake Monroe. The same thing with Ricky Starks when he came to WWE early 2015, and then he changed his name in WWE to Ricky Saints. And I wasn't a big fan of that either, but over time it grew on me, and now I like the name Ricky Saints. Gunther, the same thing when he was Walter, then he changed to Gunther in early 2022 when he was in NXT, coming from NXT UK. And then he changed from Walter to Gunther. Hated it. Absolutely hated the name change. But over time, it grew and grew on me. And now I don't hate the name anymore. Same thing with other people, wrestlers that have come to WWE but had to change their name, like Fergal Devitt in New Japan. Then he came to WWE in 2014, signed with them 2014, and he became no longer Fergal Devitt, but Finn Balor. And over time, the name grew. And now I don't hate the name anymore. I actually love the name Finn Balor. Kevin Owens, he was Kevin Steen in Ring of Honor, then became no longer Kevin Steen, but Kevin Owens when he signed with the WWE in late 2014. And now Kevin Owens, I don't hate at all anymore. And actually a big iconic name in wrestling, not just WWE, but wrestling in the industry today. So name changes. I know a lot of people are upset with the Royce Keys name change. I don't hate the name at all. And if he wants to start fresh with a new move and new company, moving with going to WWE, I respect him for that and all. And again, I don't hate the name change. I don't hate the new name at all. And even if you go to a new company with new wrestling company like WWE, go and have a new name, I don't think that the new name is a big deal. As long as you're booked right, that's all anyone should care about. And I think he'll do well for himself now that he's in WWE and creating a new legacy as not Will Hobbs, but as a new chapter as Royce Keys, now with Royce Keys now officially in WWE. So we'll see what happens with Royce Keys, and he's apparently SmackDown bound. We'll see what happens with Royce Keys on SmackDown. He'll kill it, and it'll be interesting to see what Royce Keys does as well at WrestleMania. So moving on from Royce Keys here, might as well talk about this next. Evil and Hiromu Takahashi, two guys from New Japan Pro Wrestling. Apparently, it's expected they're both headed to WWE, according to Fightful. According to Fightful Select, have the name here. So, yeah, I think it's like according to Fightful as well. Yeah, I think it's according to Fightful Select. I think it is, if I can find the name. I have the article here to read it from. So if I can find it, I remember having the article. So here we go. So not Fightful, but at Kaku Tolog. According to them, after finishing their contracts in New Japan Pro Wrestling, it is very likely that Evil and Hiromu Takahashi will both end up joining the WWE. So they were New Japan. Evil is apparently a free agent. Takahashi is not too far behind in free agency apparently as well. And it looks like WWE is going to scoop both of them up. And Tony Khan doesn't like Evil, so Evil's not going to AEW. But so that's a given. So don't expect Evil in AEW. So it looks like, and he's done everything in New Japan, so it looks like he is WWE bound for sure. I think that's a lock at this point. Takahashi could very well join him as well. Where Takahashi goes, maybe NXT, I don't know. I don't really watch much New Japan at all. I'm not a big New Japan guy. I've heard of some of the talent, but I don't really watch much because there's a lot of wrestling out there like WWE, AEW, TNA, there's AAA as well, Pro Wrestling Noah, there's New Japan, GCW, JCW, there's ACW. There's a lot of wrestling out there. MLW as well is another promotion out there in the wrestling world and the wrestling business and landscape and industry also. So there's a lot of wrestling out there, and I do watch WWE and AEW, and when I can get a chance, TNA, but there's a lot of wrestling out there for me to like. There's only so much wrestling somebody can watch, and though I don't watch a whole lot of New Japan, I have heard of some of the talent and watched some of the talent. They do have some decent talent, some good talent. Actually, not decent. They do have a lot of good talent in New Japan, and I have heard of Evil. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't he married? I don't know if he's still married, but I think at one point he was married to Io Sky. I don't know if they still are, but at one point I remember Io Sky, when she was Io Shirai and Evil, were married at some point years ago. I'm not sure if they still are now, but I do remember one point years ago they were married together. But Evil is apparently going to WWE. That's pretty much a lock at this point. It looks like, according to reports. Takahashi also looks like probably heading to WWE as well. Now, where they go, I don't know. Maybe Takahashi starts in NXT for a while. Maybe Evil, same thing. They have been having this little SmackDown thing with Shinsuke Nakamura and Tama Tonga, which I'm not really much of a fan of at all. I think it's fucking boring, and I can't stand the MFTs. I think they do nothing for me, and I just want them off my television because they do fuck all for the product and they don't make SmackDown any good. In fact, I feel like they make SmackDown that much worse, and taking them off SmackDown and TV would actually make SmackDown and WWE TV a lot better, in my honest opinion. And I don't really care much for the Shinsuke and Tama Tonga and MFTs crap. I think it does nothing for me. Now, I don't know I don't know where Shinsuke and the MFT stuff is going, but I don't know if you want to add Evil to this, have him in a tag team with Nakamura, and they have Nakamura and Evil beat the MFTs for the tag titles at WrestleMania. I don't know if that's a direction they go. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know if that's I don't know if that's the direction they want to do. Maybe have Takahashi involved. Maybe have Takahashi in NXT for a while, get his feet wet, get used to the WWE style, because it's a lot different style than the New Japan style, which is very hard hitting and stuff. Two completely different animals or beasts. The New Japan style and the WWE style in terms of in-ring styles and stuff. But I would probably say Takahashi and NXT or Evolve. Maybe I would say NXT just for a little bit to get his feet wet, probably. Evil, probably have him go right to the main roster and put him on SmackDown and put him in a tag team on SmackDown with Shinsuke Nakamura, because Evil I don't really see going much of anywhere as a singles guy, in my opinion, unless you put him in a faction or in a tag team. Maybe you put Evil in a tag team on SmackDown with Shinsuke Nakamura, maybe Evil and Shinsuke Nakamura. When the tag team titles off the MFTs at WrestleMania in Las Vegas. Who knows? Maybe have Takahashi involved. Maybe they have Takahashi in a SmackDown tag team with Nakamura and Evil. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But like I said, Shinsuke and Tama and the MFTs, I'm not high on at all. I don't know where the hell it's going unless you bring in Evil and or Takahashi in. I don't know. But we'll see what happens with Evil and Takahashi, as apparently they are both WWE bound and they are apparently on the free agent market pool. And it looks like ultimately WWE will end up scooping both up, Takahashi and Evil. We then talk about the next topic of the show, John Cena. Apparently, he's not expected for the 2026 WWE Hall of Fame, which I think is sad, but I do think at some point, sooner rather than later, he does end up in the Hall of Fame. I don't think next year. I would rather him in the Hall of Fame on American soil, just my opinion. But I do think John Cena will be in the Hall of Fame, just not this year. Stephanie McMahon is apparently the headliner for this year's Hall of Fame, which will take place this April WrestleMania 42 weekend in Las Vegas. So John Cena, don't expect him in the Hall of Fame this year. He did retire 2 months ago on December 13th in Washington, D.C., Saturday night's main event in his last match against Gunther, which I thought was a great match. But according to WrestleVotes Radio on Fightful Select, they said on Thursday that as of this moment, John Cena in the Hall of Fame this year is looking very unlikely. Though there was some speculation with John Cena in this year's Hall of Fame, according to WrestleVotes with Fightful, it's looking very unlikely at this time. It says, quote, John Cena is not expected to be a part of this year's Hall of Fame class of 2026. Most in WWE expect Stephanie McMahon to be the headliner of this year's edition, and that an immortal moment induction is expected this year as well. And it says former WWE Chief Executive Officer and Monday Night Raw General Manager and longtime company performer Stephanie McMahon is the only member of the 2026 WWE Hall of Fame class that has been publicly revealed thus far. It says McMahon was surprised with the announcement back in September at WrestlePalooza. Says she was sitting ringside ahead of the main event match between then WWE Champion Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre in September of last year, when The Undertaker unexpectedly joined her and informed her of the news. It was a major moment for WWE's first premium live event broadcast on ESPN as well. So, John Cena, not in the Hall of Fame this year. If he's not, I do expect him at some point sooner rather than later. I don't expect it to be much longer with him in the Hall of Fame at all. I would say him in the Hall of Fame not next year in 2027, as they'll be in Saudi next year. And I think it's only right for John Cena to be inducted in the Hall of Fame on American soil, not Saudi soil. I don't want to see John Cena inducted in the Hall of Fame on Saudi soil. I think that would be not good at all. And I don't want to see that, and nobody does either. And it's only right and fitting and necessary for Cena to be inducted in the Hall of Fame on U.S. soil. Wherever WrestleMania is in 2028 or somewhere WrestleMania after 2028. So that's just my take on that. Do I think John Cena will be in the Hall of Fame? Absolutely. Is he deserving of the Hall of Fame? Absolutely. 17-time world champion, one of the greatest of all time, and a legend in the business, no doubt about it, no matter what you think of him, whether you love him or hate him. John Cena is indeed a legend and a future WWE Hall of Famer, zero questions asked. But if he's not inducted this year, I would say at least 2028 he's inducted. But I don't want to see him inducted next year. I don't think that would be right at all if he's inducted next year with WrestleMania next year being in Saudi. But I would say this is just me. I would say the right thing, hold off on Cena Hall of Fame for the next couple years. I would say 2028 is the right time to induct John Cena and stuff like that. Stephanie McMahon is probably going to be the headliner for this year's Hall of Fame. No other inductees yet announced at this time. Probably the weeks when we get closer to Mania, probably most likely than not, we'll find out the other inductees for this year's Hall of Fame as well, joining Stephanie McMahon for the Hall of Fame this year for WWE class of 2026. Who they are, we don't know. We'll see. But according to WrestleVotes and Fightful, John Cena is not going to be in this year's Hall of Fame. But I do think he will get in eventually, but maybe not this year, and I don't want to see it next year. Batista should also be in there. He was supposed to be inducted in the Hall of Fame in 2020, but then COVID-19 hit, but he's still not getting the Hall of Fame. So I got to work that out as well. So John Cena's not in the Hall of Fame this year, according to reports. Let me know what you guys think on that in the comments down below. See here. So we talked about John Cena, not expected for this year's Hall of Fame. When we have a couple more things to talk about. AJ Styles, his retirement, his WWE status update. Michael Hayes thinking Chelsea Green is not meant to be a top girl, and Ricochet says that WWE tarnished his legacy. We might as well do this one next. Ricochet. So pulling up a report, and as I take another sip of my drink here, have some voice bass because I have something that I have quite to say about Ricochet here. Also popcorn as well. So finding the report. Hold on. Let me find a report, guys. So here we go. So apparently Ricochet says that WWE tarnished his legacy. So this is according to Dave Meltzer. Again, take it with a grain of salt, but Ricochet, man, he says that WWE tarnished my legacy. He said Ricochet accused WWE of ruining not only his momentum but his love for the business entirely. Said they killed his passion and stuff, and said they killed his legacy and tarnished his legacy. And this is from, and Ricochet apparently tweeted about this as well. If I can find the tweets, I seen the tweets. I thought it was ridiculous, but at the same time, Ricochet wasn't wrong either. But here it is. Let me see if I can find it. And apparently, also according to WON Wrestling Observer newsletter, apparently Ricochet reportedly infuriated a lot of people in WWE after he publicly stated that the company ruined or tarnished his legacy. No shit. No shit. So if I can find the tweet, so I know it's here. Find the tweet. So here we go. Finding the stupid tweet. So this is what Ricochet says. So this is what Ricochet says. I think he was interviewed at Mark Hoke's show. So Ricochet says this about his WWE main roster run. Now, Ricochet was in WWE from 2018 to 2024. Total 6 years in WWE. First year in NXT. 5 years on the main roster. Didn't do much of anything, but that was when Vince was in charge. But Ricochet says this after being called up to the WWE main roster was the, quote, worst thing for his career. Quote, there was an image that got posted. It was like me and Johnny Gargano and Tomasso Ciampa and Aleister Black, and it's all four of us. And it was like coming to Raw, and it was showing the floor of our photos saying that we're coming to Raw. So especially that at that time, that should have been the biggest promotion in our industry, turned out. I think for specifically Ricochet's story, that time was kind of like being, you've seen the Marvel movies, Thanos snaps and there was a 5-year blip of people that were just gone. I literally think that's how I put Ricochet's wrestling career. That 5 years that was like being blipped away into a different universe, and it just wasn't what I was doing. It wasn't me. Coming to AEW and finding that love, it's like when Tony Stark finally defeated the Thanos and all the people came back. That's kind of how I feel like Ricochet finally came back to what he was doing. And I feel like that 5 years was just kind of blipped away. I already know how this is going to sound. And I already know how people are going to take this, but I think that day that we got called to Raw was the worst thing that happened to Ricochet's wrestling career. I met my wife there. I made friends, made memories. They had a crazy platform to put me all the positive stuff, but I think specifically for Ricochet's wrestling career, it's where it got blipped because what I was doing and the trajectory that it was on compared to the trajectory that I got for those 5 years, and then how it completely changed the public's image of Ricochet and who Ricochet was. I really think that 5 years was like, again, whatever you want to say for the fame and the celebrity and all that side of it. I'm talking specifically the wrestling side of it. That 5 years really tarnished Ricochet's wrestling legacy, end quote. Now, before I discuss my thoughts on this, I don't want to lose my breath, so I'm taking another sip. So Ricochet says WWE tarnished his legacy. Now Ricochet running his mouth thinking he's Mr. Hotshot and Big Shot on social media and saying, "Oh, I'm a bigger star. I'm the big deal. Like WWE didn't treat me right. They didn't give me a microphone. I wasn't a world champion. I could have been so much bigger, and I'm this big deal in AEW," which clearly Ricochet's not. He's holding a national title in AEW. That doesn't mean fucking shit. Let's be real. It doesn't mean a damn thing. The title means nothing. It means nothing. And Ricochet claims like he's this big deal. He's not. Like, Ricochet, and this is no disrespect to Ricochet, by the way. I'm calling it like it is. Great wrestler is Ricochet. I think he's a fantastic pro wrestler, but my God, when it comes to promos, Ricochet cannot talk for shit. There's a reason WWE never gave this guy much mic time, because they knew he sucked on the mic. He was awful. He was awful on the mic. And you see why WWE didn't give him any mic time, because when he has a mic in his hand, he's cringe on the mic. And Tony Khan gives Ricochet a mic. Why? I don't know. But Ricochet on the microphone and promos is fucking terrible. He is terrible on the microphone. It's almost like cut this guy's mic off. He's just that bad on the mic. But Ricochet, man, when he was in WWE, he wasn't causing problems on social media like he is now. Like it feels like he's just trolling, or Tony Khan's telling him to do this shit, honestly. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's a Tony Khan burner account. If it's a Tony Khan burner account telling Ricochet to say this stupid shit on social media, I would not be shocked at all, honestly. And Ricochet even mentioned about, let's ask Apollo Crews, Shinsuke Nakamura, Finn Balor, what they're doing or whatnot. He mentioned another tweet. I would love to find that as well, because some fan mentioned something in the tweet, and Ricochet quote tweeted this guy mentioning Finn Balor and stuff like that. If I can find the tweet, I know it is definitely in here. So if I can find the tweet, and because I would love to bring that up in here too as well. So if I can find it, there we go. Let's find it. Here we go. So Ricochet says that his 5 years on the WWE main roster, quote, tarnished his legacy. And then he replies to one guy on X, and Ricochet replies, "Same thing happens to Balor, Shinsuke, Apollo, and many others. WWE kills legacies and love of the sport. It's what they do best." And so he's speaking for Balor, Shinsuke, Apollo, and a bunch of others. Now, this was when Vince was in charge. and buried a lot of talent that came up from Triple H's NXT Black and Gold. And Vince had nothing to do with NXT Black and Gold. And when someone from Black and Gold got called up to Raw or SmackDown, especially on Raw, and Vince didn't like it, he'd bury you, especially if you step foot on Raw. And that was the case when a lot of times, more than not, when Vince was in charge. And then Triple H took over in 2022 when a lot of these guys were already buried and dead at that point. By the time Triple H took over, Ricochet was one of them. He tried to help save Ricochet, but Ricochet was damaged goods at that point. At Triple H taking over well before 2022, Ricochet would probably still be in WWE right now. Now, I'm not making excuses for Triple H because, like, he had a bad year the past year coming out of 2025. He has been playing it safe the past year and stuff, and no new stars have been created yet by him yet. And it takes time to build up some people to make new stars. But at least with Ricochet, and I just want to say this, though Ricochet's main roster run had a lot to be desired, he was great in NXT Black and Gold with his battles with Velveteen Dream, when Velveteen Dream said, going into their, I think they wrestled in Chicago, June 2018, Money in the Bank 2018 weekend in Chicago, where it was an NXT show when it was taped and 1 hour on the WWE Network on Wednesday nights. I think it was an NXT episode before Velveteen Dream's and Ricochet's match. I think it was TakeOver Chicago 2, June 2018, where Velveteen Dream said on NXT to Ricochet, "What you can do, Ricochet, the Dream can do better." And Ricochet flipped over the top rope, landed on his feet to the outside, and then he stood face to face with Velveteen Dream, which was cool. And Ricochet says, "Well, prove it." And they had a banger match at TakeOver Chicago 2 in June of 2018 in Chicago, Allstate Arena. That was a banger match. One of the best matches of 2018 for WWE and wrestling, hands down. And Ricochet was booked very good on Black and Gold when Triple H was in charge. And then Vince McMahon called him up in February 2019 for no reason with no plans. And Vince called him up because he wanted to prove Triple H wrong, because Triple H, what he did with Black and Gold was a threat to Vince McMahon's main roster. And Triple H tried to bury NXT because he had nothing to do with it. And he felt like it felt like a big threat to him. And I remember that Raw in Lafayette, Louisiana, late February of 2019, where Vince called up Aleister Black, Tomasso Ciampa, Johnny Gargano, Ricochet. Vince called those four up to the main roster at the time. And he didn't even tell his son-in-law Triple H they were being called up. He did it behind Triple H's back. Didn't even tell Triple H they were being called up. And Vince did it and called them up in a reckless way to try and prove his son-in-law wrong, because Vince thought what he did was still right, which it clearly wasn't. And Vince was trying to prove Triple H wrong. And he called those four up to Vince in a reckless way. And then Ciampa ended up getting injured with a neck injury. Not to miss TakeOver New York in April 2019, WrestleMania weekend in 2019 in New York, New Jersey. And that's when we got Adam Cole and Johnny Gargano for the vacant NXT title, when it was supposed to be Ciampa and Gargano at TakeOver New York for the NXT title instead. But because of Vince, that fucked up their plans. And Ciampa got a neck injury because of Vince McMahon's reckless behavior. And that was Vince McMahon. Yet there are idiots who want Vince McMahon back. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable to me. But I remember that was that Raw in Lafayette, Louisiana, which made no fucking pop or noise for Ricochet, Aleister Black, or Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa and DIY. Lafayette was an awful, awful crowd. One of the worst crowds for a wrestling show ever. There's a reason why they've never went back to Lafayette since then, and you see why. But Ricochet was called up by Vince to Raw in February 2019. And then it was coming out of WrestleMania in 2019. He started out fine, but then after a while, he felt just like everyone else. And then he was the U.S. champion. Wasn't like nobody much really remembers that he held it for like a month, lost it to AJ Styles in the summer of 2019. Didn't hold it long at all. And then he was on Raw from like 2019 to 2021. He did jack shit there. Then he was moved to SmackDown in the 2021 draft. He was the Intercontinental Champion in the spring of 2022. He didn't hold the IC title that long, lost it to Gunther. And then Gunther and then the rest was history with Gunther as the Intercontinental Champion for over 600 days, and that rest was history. And then Ricochet was being buried on SmackDown, and then Triple H takes over when Vince originally retired, and then Triple H tried to save Ricochet. He was starting out fine. Then he was in a tag team. Then he was starting fine. Then he was starting good again. Then he forms a tag team with Braun Strowman, an oddball pairing tag team with Braun Strowman and Ricochet, but it worked, and they were getting really over. And then I think Braun Strowman got hurt or something, but Ricochet was Ricochet, he was great in NXT on the main roster. It was a lot to be desired with Ricochet, and that was when Vince was in charge, and then Triple H took over from Vince in the summer of 2022. And I feel by the time Triple H took over, it was too late to save Ricochet at that point. Now, again, I'm not making excuses for Triple H, but I mean, and he has not had a good year the past year from 2025, and the past year he's had a bad year in 2025 creatively. He's played it safe the past year, and he hasn't created new stars yet at this time, and that takes time to make new stars. They just called up Oba Femi, Javon Evans, Trick Williams, and other people that are the future. Braun Breaker, Carmelo Hayes, Ilya Dragunov, and others. Julia, Stephanie Vetcare, Jordan Grace, others like Sol Ruka, who I think is going to be called up this year. They're not there as to the point where they're new created stars yet. At the time, Gunther's about to be there as a new created star under Triple H's administration as well, but they're not there yet at this time, and it takes time to create new stars and build them up properly, and it doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. It can take like a couple years probably at least, and it takes time. But at least under Triple H, and even with Triple H when he took over from Vince on the main roster, at least under Triple H, Ricochet and his main roster run towards the end of his main roster run was used consistently. He wasn't buried at all, and at least he was used on a consistent basis under Triple H when he took over from Vince towards the end of Ricochet's main roster run, in my honest opinion. And Ricochet can gloat that his AEW run is better. I don't think it is at all, not even close. And yes, it may be his main roster run was a lot to be desired, and his NXT run was when he was booked right and good. But if you were to ask me, I think Ricochet was better in WWE than he is now in AEW. I think he would I don't think he's better in AEW. I think he was better in WWE, in my honest opinion, even with him better in NXT and him not doing that good on the main roster, even with that. And at least in WWE, like in AEW, there's like 7 to 10 Ricochets do the same thing in ring that Ricochet does. At least in WWE, Ricochet stood out from a lot of people on WWE. AEW, he doesn't. So at least Ricochet, he stands out in WWE despite his poor main roster booking. And that was because that was when Vince was there. But at least in WWE, Ricochet stood out. In AEW, Ricochet doesn't stand out at all because there's a lot of smaller guys in AEW that do a lot of the flips just like that Ricochet does. And Ricochet in AEW just feels like everyone else. He doesn't feel special and just feels like just another body on the AEW roster, and it's a shame. And it sucks because Ricochet's a very good professional wrestler. Love Ricochet. I think he's fantastic. I think that his promos are a lot to be desired, yes, but in ring, he's amazing. I think he's a very, very good professional wrestler. And he's not doing really much of anything in AEW. He's holding a national title. That doesn't mean shit. He can say, oh, he's doing great in AEW, he's better in AEW all he wants. But I think at the end of the day, despite his poor main roster booking because of Vince and Ricochet being better in NXT Black and Gold, despite all that, I think Ricochet was better in WWE than he is in AEW. And it's just my opinion on that at the end of the day. Let me know what you guys think of that in the down below. As Ricochet mentioned, WWE, quote, tarnished his legacy. Now, WWE, yes, but that was when Vince was there. And Ricochet says same thing happens to Finn Balor, but how do you know that, Ricochet? How do you really know that? And Finn Balor is most likely getting CM Punk for the world title again in Chicago at the Elimination Chamber, most likely than not. Nakamura, maybe. His family lives in the States and he's comfortable, likes his surfing. Maybe that's what Shinsuke wants. Like, Ricochet speaking for these people, like, how do you really know that? You can speak for them, but how do you really know that for sure, Trevor, man? Just saying. And the Paul Crews may be content there as well. I don't know. His family, I don't know. But that's just my thoughts on Ricochet and what he mentioned recently, saying WWE, quote, tarnish his legacy. I mean, Ricochet is not wrong, but at the same time, I do think he was better in WWE than he is in AEW at the same time. Just my 2 cents on Ricochet as far as all that is concerned. So mention Ricochet. I'm going to talk about this next before moving on to AJ Styles and my Raw, SmackDown, NXT, and AEW thoughts as well. So might as well talk about this next. Michael Hayes. Apparently Michael Hayes, and I got quite a lot to say about Michael Hayes, bro. Michael Hayes apparently thinks Chelsea Green is not meant to be a, quote, top girl in WWE. Listen to this. And this was coming from the second season of WWE Unreal on Netflix. And it apparently featured some comments from WWE Hall of Famer Michael Hayes, who has been a key part of the company's creative team for decades. He says, and listen to this from Michael Hayes. And after I read this, yeah, I'm going to say Michael Hayes, throw him in the bin, along with Bruce Pritchard and Road Dogg and Ed Koskey. Throw them all in the fucking bin, right where they belong. Quote, this is from Michael Hayes, quote, Chelsea Green, he talks about Chelsea Green, quote, Chelsea Green is so entertaining, but she is not built for, nor should she be, in the Charlotte Flair role or Tiffany Stratton role. Chelsea Green is just not meant to be a top girl in WWE because Chelsea Green's job is to help make those people look good, help make Charlotte and Tiffany look good. And then apparently the former 2-time women's U.S. champion Chelsea Green then spoke her mind about this as well, and admitted she was pissed off about what Hayes said. I don't blame her at all. No shit. I don't blame Chelsea Green at all. And this is what Chelsea Green has to say. Quote, okay, this is tea, ladies, because I have not done media since this came out. This really, really ruffled some feathers. He basically on Unreal said Chelsea makes the most out of her time, so we don't need to give her 30 minutes. We give her 30 seconds, and she does the same work, which is great because she's not meant to be here for 30 minutes, according to Michael Hayes. Bull fucking shit. If you watch Chelsea Green's work in Lucha Underground or match in Lucha Underground with Penta, Chelsea Green can fucking go in that ring. And they have her doing this comedic bullshit on SmackDown with the Secret Service. And you can thank fucking Bruce Pritchard and Road Dogg for that, even though Triple H is taking over for Vince. As long as Bruce, Dogg, Koskey, and Michael Hayes are still there, then it's as if Vince McMahon never left at all. You got to get Michael Hayes, Bruce Pritchard, Ed Koskey, and Road Dogg all out. They don't need to be there, and they're just fucking Vince poisons, and nothing will change as long as those 4 buffoons are still in WWE in any which role or capacity your way. Get those all 4 the fuck out of creative now. Get them all out. Drain the fucking swamp. And continuing on Chelsea Green saying this, it's crazy because I'm a self-aware human being, so I know my kind of place on the totem pole in this fake hierarchy that is wrestling. But to actually hear that there was a ceiling put on me, it's different. You can help but be pissed off and a little upset and just aggravated at the fact that you thought that there was maybe a chance that there wasn't that ceiling, that maybe it was all in your head, and it wasn't confirmed to me. It was confirmed on national television. And apparently Chelsea Green is supported by Maria Canales with this as well. And then apparently on X, Maria praised Chelsea Green as a talent as well. Quote, it's interesting. I've seen these comments come up again and again from Michael Hayes on my timeline, and I don't know if it's real or unreal. But what I do know is that when Chelsea was released from WWE, she was a different person, someone that was unsure and was quite comfortable in their own skin. The person that Chelsea Green is now can carry a division, not because she's just the best wrestler or the best whatever, but because she is the best. She is the most motivated, dedicated, and unapologetically talented person in WWE. That lack of fear makes a champion. The willingness to do the job necessary makes her a star. So incredibly proud of her transformation. And Chelsea, the only ceiling is the one you break at WWE. And then Chelsea Green saw the comment on X replying with this quote, "LY sister, thank you for always supporting me since day one." End of that. Michael Hayes, throw him right in the fucking trash bin where he belongs. He can join Bruce Pritchard, Road Dogg, and Ed Koskey in the bin. Throw Michael Hayes in the bin, right in the bin. Chelsea, and he says Chelsea Green is not meant to be a top girl, not meant to wrestle for 30 minutes and has a ceiling. Unfucking believable. The sooner we get Michael Hayes out of WWE and creative, the better WWE can be. And this is the same man, by the way, who pitched Jey Uso to win the Royal Rumble last year, and he was also the same guy, Michael Hayes, to be one of the producers of last week's Men's Royal Rumble. When Jey Uso was in the Royal Rumble last week, and he did during the match, and he's fucking eating during the Rumble, which was fucking just, oh my God, like fucking atrocious. You're in the Rumble and you're fucking eating. I would not be surprised if that was a Michael Hayes idea in production. That would not surprise me at all. And you want to know why Chelsea Green is not where she is? Michael Hayes. He's the fucking problem. Nothing will change as long as that fucking old dinosaur, that big-ass Vince McMahon yes man, is still there. Get him out. Him, Bruce, Koskey, Road Dogg, get them all out. Get them all out. Drain the damn swamp. Nothing will change in WWE for the better as long as Road Dogg, Bruce Pritchard, Ed Koskey, Michael Hayes still have a job in WWE in any which way. Yes, Triple H is taking over from Vince, but if Dogg, Bruce, Koskey, and Hayes are still there, if Michael Hayes, Ed Koskey, Road Dogg, and Bruce Pritchard are still there, nothing will change. Nothing will change as long as those four clowns are still there. Get them all out. Drain the swamp. Drain the swamp. And this is not the first time Michael Hayes has come up with ceilings on wrestlers. He's done this in the past. I think I even watched something Dolph Ziggler, Nick Nemeth mentioned this, where he mentioned something like, and I think you remember talking with Michael Hayes, like wrestling Seth Rollins a bunch of times. Oh yeah, Ziggler, you're gonna wrestle Seth. Okay, what's gonna happen? Am I gonna win? Oh no, only 1 out of 37 times. 36 out of 37, Seth's gonna go over. You're just there to make Seth look good. You're just there to enhance Seth Rollins and enhance other guys, put them over. We can't have you go over most of the time. Only once, like out of 37 times. And that is typical Michael Hayes. And that's what happens when he's worked with Vince for years and been brainwashed by Vince for years. Nothing but a big yes man fucking piece of shit is Michael Hayes. And Bruce Pritchard's the same way too. Nothing but big fucking Vince McMahon yes men who think they owe their lives to Vince. Oh, we owe our entire lives to Vince. We gotta worship Vince. Vince is the GOAT. We gotta owe every single bit of our life to Vince. Fuck Vince McMahon. Fuck him. Vince McMahon hated professional wrestling. He spat in the face of professional wrestling. You don't owe a damn thing to that old man Vince McMahon. And anybody that thinks anybody that's still in WWE that thinks they owe everything to Vince, get them out. Get them all out. Those kind of people do not need to be there. Anybody like that, get fucking rid of them. And put somebody in there who can actually do the job, unlike Michael Hayes, Bruce Pritchard, Road Dogg, and Ed Koskey. Get Dogg, Koskey, Michael Hayes, and Bruce Pritchard. Get those four all the fuck out of WWE. The sooner Road Dogg, Bruce Pritchard, Michael Hayes, and Ed Koskey are all out of WWE, the better WWE can be. Nothing will change as long as those four fucking clowns are still there. Honestly. And he says Chelsea Green is not meant to be a top girl. Chelsea Green can be something if you actually let her be her. She's in the Secret Harvest crap on SmackDown that's fucking awful. It's not funny, and it's fucking comedy garbage, and we all know that's not Chelsea Green. If you watch Chelsea Green in her match with Penta back from Lucha Underground, if you watch that match, Chelsea Green is actually a very good wrestler and can go in that ring. If we have that Chelsea Green in WWE, I'm telling you, a lot of people would think different of Chelsea Green. If you let Chelsea Green be that Chelsea Green on SmackDown, I'm telling you, it would be a lot better off for it. And if you just give Chelsea Green the chance and opportunity, she can actually be something. Could she be something higher than the mid card? Yes, if you give her a chance, she could be something. And at one point in 2024, I remember she was actually over with the Chelsea Green kind of a thing. She was actually getting over and she was actually doing well. And then she lost that momentum. I wouldn't be surprised if that was Michael Hayes. Would not shock me, period. Honestly. Chelsea Green is actually a very good wrestler. Again, and if you just let her be her, she could really be something in WWE. And SmackDown's women's division needs all the help they can get. Give Chelsea Green a shot. She could really be something, but that's never going to happen as long as Michael Hayes is still there. Just get him out. Get Michael Hayes out. I don't know why he's still there. Why Michael Hayes still has a job there blows my fucking mind, honestly. And this same man, I remember mentioned something about Naomi, talking about Naomi's walkout with Sasha Banks, or when Trinity and Mercedes walked out of WWE in May of 2022 when they dropped the women's tag team titles on the desk of Vince McMahon and John Laurinaitis when they wanted Sasha and Naomi to do some nonsensical bullshit fucking sex pack women's match for opportunity to face Bianca at some point for the Raw Women's title, which the match made no sense to begin with. And Vince McMahon wanted Sasha and Naomi to be in that match as women's tag team champions, and it was ridiculous. And you wonder why Sasha and Naomi walked out, and rightfully so. And this fucking asshole Michael Hayes talks about Trinity's or Naomi's walkout. So I'm going, you don't walk out like that. You're told to do a match. You're told to do the match. You do what you're told. You do what you're told. You don't walk out. I'm sorry, Michael Hayes, that the match was fucking illogical to begin with. And the match made no sense right from the word go. And you could have argued, Vince, to say, no, Vince, why are we doing this six-pack woman match when it doesn't make sense when Sasha and Naomi are the tag team champions? Why are we putting them in this number one contender six-pack challenge match for the women for an opportunity to face Bianca Belair at a future date for the Raw Women's title in the middle of 2022? Why are we doing this, Vince? That's not a good idea. That doesn't make sense. Let's come up with something else that's a lot more logical and better instead. Instead of doing that, no, he's a big fucking Vince McMahon ass kisser, yes man, who he says, he doesn't argue Vince. He gives Vince whatever the fuck he wants. And like this fucking clown, Michael Hayes, fucking amazes me, bro. He really, really amazes me. I can't wait for him to get fired. He's got to fucking go. WWE will never change as long as people like Michael Hayes are still there. To say that Naomi should not have walked out, bull fucking shit. Sasha and Naomi were right to walk out. Why would you put your then women's tag team champion Sasha and Naomi in a meaningless match that made no sense right from the word go? Why would you do that? And Michael Hayes, oh, you don't walk out. You're disrespectful by walking out. You don't walk out. You're told to do the match. You do the match. Fuck off. Fuck off. I'm sorry the match made no sense. I'm sorry that you wanted to book a match that A, was fucking stupid to begin with, and I'm sorry that you can't do your fucking job right, Michael Hayes. I'm sorry about that. Sorry about that. Sasha and Naomi were right to walk out. And fuck Michael Hayes on his comments on Naomi, by the way. Again, Michael Hayes, throw him right in the bin. Right in the bin goes Michael Hayes, joining Bruce Pritchard, Ed Koski, and Mr. D-O-double-G, Road Dogg. Oh, you didn't know? Yeah, that guy. Fuck Michael Hayes. Honestly, I can't wait for him to go. The sooner Michael Hayes, Bruce Pritchard, Ed Koski, and Road Dogg, those four fucking Vince fucking asshole poisonous yes men, Road Dogg, Bruce Pritchard, Michael Hayes, and Ed Koski, the sooner those four fucking rats get exterminated, the sooner Dog, Bruce, Michael Hayes, and Ed Koski go, the sooner those four fucking clowns go and are no longer in WWE, the better WWE creative as the whole will be. Nothing will change as in WWE for the better at all, as long as Hayes, Koski, Dog, and Bruce still have a job there in any which type of role. Get them all the fuck out. And might as well take a little comments break. Adam Carl says, hi, man. Sup, Adam Carl? Apparently not here tonight. He'll be here next week for episode 12, 8 a.m. So set the time for that. Little hoarse voice, but that's all good. Taking a drink of water. So might as well talk about this next thing, AJ Styles, right here. Have the article as well talking about AJ Styles. So might as well talk about this next right here. So going to talk about this AJ Styles stuff in a little bit. Actually, I think we'll talk about this AJ stuff. AJ Styles WWE status update. Then talk about highlights on Raw, SmackDown, NXT, Dynamite this week. We'll talk about AJ Styles real quick. Then we'll conclude with Raw, SmackDown, NXT, Dynamite talk, and that'll be end of tonight's episode 11. So, AJ Styles, WWE status, where it stands, and is he really retired? Or is it just WWE controlling a narrative and they have him sign a lucrative Legends deal so he doesn't go anywhere else? Something like that. But we have an update status at this time currently as far as AJ Styles at this time is concerned. Anything new update changes, I will definitely let you know. So AJ Styles says his WWE career is over. It says a number of months ago, Fightful Select reported that at the time, the belief was that AJ Styles' WWE contract was up sometime in February 2026. Says we can't confirm that to be the case, but we've heard nothing about an extension as of this point. There were a number of outlets speaking as if that was still the case, but we've reported no update since then. One TNA source believed he would or had extended with WWE before the Royal Rumble, but we've not confirmed that. And the possibility of working with TNA, it was communicated by WWE sources that if he wanted to do that badly enough, he could while under WWE contract. One WWE source familiar with this situation says that regardless of what happens with his future, AJ Styles has very much had his way as it relates to his WWE retirement. Another source in management that said that they would happily extend AJ Styles, but that he has made it very clear for years that he was eyeing retirement. The topic was a major point of conversation backstage at AEW at Dynamite on January 28th, with people on the team speculating what he was doing. Now, as of February 3rd, we have not been told that an offer was made from AEW to AJ Styles, but it was universally expected among AEW sources that if AEW was able to, they would bring AJ Styles in within a heartbeat, which would not shock me. AJ Styles is still close with a number of people in AEW, like Matt and Nick Jackson of the Young Bucks, Adam Page, Kenny Omega, especially Kenny and the Bucks. It is expected that New Japan Pro Wrestling would want to use him as well, in the middle of them losing a ton of talent, which would also be smart, with them losing Takahashi and Evil potentially to WWE, and then them losing Will Ospreay as well, and also Okada. One source close to AJ Styles then said that they knew Styles' in-ring career was ending at the Royal Rumble, but aren't sure what he's doing next. It was communicated by that source that AJ will do what he wants to do regardless of money, and that he's in a position to do so. End of article. Now, AJ Styles was also on a recent episode of Stephanie's Place's podcast recently this past week as well, which I did watch, and it's a good listen. So if you haven't watched it, go check it out. Now, what do I think with AJ Styles? Do I think he's done with WWE? Yes, I do. But I mean, could it have been better at WrestleMania? Yes. With AJ retiring in Saudi at the Rumble, just felt very awkward to me, and I think it should have been on American soil, and that's just me. But do I think he's done in WWE? Yes. Do I think he's done wrestling? No. Could I see him potentially wrestle for AEW? Yes, but probably like a very cup of coffee thing, like a few matches, that's it. I could probably see him retiring with TNA at the end of the year, honestly. That's just me. Now, it could not happen. Maybe he is truly done. Maybe he wanted to go out the way he wanted to, and it said he went out on his terms. And honestly, the match with Gunther, the Rumble, was very, very good, and I don't think he could have asked for anything better. And he went out with and if that was AJ's last match in wrestling in WWE, man, it's like he went out on a high note, and I don't think he could ask anything better with AJ Styles and Gunther. It could have been better with American soil than on Saudi soil, but it was a very good match with Gunther and AJ at the Rumble nonetheless. But if AJ's truly done, if he went on in his way, then, and if that was his decision, then so be it. Now he's almost 50. He could still very much go for his age, but he said, I think it was a botch at the Saturday Night's Main Event, December 13th in Washington, D.C. I think it was AJ Styles and Dragon Lee. They were the World Tag Team Champions on Raw at the time. I think they wrestled Javon Evans and then X Division Champion for TNA Leon Slater, I think. And I think there was one spot where AJ Styles botched big time a phenomenal forearm, and then I think AJ was beating himself up and saying he doesn't want to like end his career where he wants to retire, right? He doesn't want to overstay his welcome, doesn't want to wrestle long. He wants to retire soon because he doesn't want to come to a point where he's still wrestling and he's embarrassing himself. He's overstaying his welcome. I could see where AJ's coming from, but he could still go for his age at almost 50 years old and stuff. He has done a lot in the industry, in TNA, WWE, Ring of Honor, New Japan. He's done it all. And he could still very much go for being almost 50 years old. But, I mean, I don't know what AJ wants to do. If he is done. I don't think he is done. But if it's his decision, then I respect him for that. I don't know if that is truly the case. Maybe he wants to spend more time with his kids. Maybe he wants to see, and his kids apparently play sports. And I remember reading a report in 2020. This was during the pandemic. His kids would play sports, I think, in grade school on Fridays, I think, and stuff. I believe I remember reading a report of that. Reading a report of that like around 6 years ago, something like that. Maybe he wants to be home more with his wife and his kids to see them play sports more on like the weekends, and he wants to spend more time with his family. I don't know what he wants to do. Maybe that was a factor, and that was probably his decision. Maybe he wanted to go out the way he wanted to. Maybe that is the case. I don't know. I think he could still go for almost 50 years old. I expect him to finish out in TNA by around the end of this year, and stuff like that. Maybe he signed, and apparently he was met with WWE at headquarters this week. Maybe he signed a lucrative Legends deal. I don't know if they did that just to keep him away from AEW, because Tony Khan would be foolish not to scoop him up. But even if AJ does go to AEW, I expect it to be like a few matches kind of a thing. I don't expect that long term at all. And I do expect AJ Styles to work in WWE, maybe like a backstage coach or producer role. I would definitely expect him in the Hall of Fame, no doubt about it. No question, Jackson. He is a deserved inductee into the WWE Hall of Fame. Absolutely zero questions asked about it. But I do think AJ Styles is done with WWE, but not wrestling. I expect him in AEW for like a cup of coffee while, then in TNA and then finish up with TNA for the rest of the year. That's just my opinion. But if he is done, and he really wants to be just done wrestling and maybe spend more time with his family, then I respect AJ Styles for that. And if he went out the way he wanted to, then good for him. And you can't ask for anything better with AJ Styles and Gunther, because they had a great match at the Rumble last week in Saudi Arabia. And if AJ Styles is truly done, what a heck of a run AJ Styles has had. And thank you to AJ Styles. And has nothing to be ashamed of if that is truly the end of AJ Styles wrestling, if he truly wanted to go out on his terms, if last week was the way he wanted it. So we don't know what AJ Styles really wants. We'll see what happens. It looks like he's still under WWE contract as if this time. Maybe he is under Legend still, if not already. I don't know. But anything new update happens regarding AJ Styles, I will certainly let you guys know regarding the phenomenal one, AJ Styles, as he retired from WWE a week ago in Saudi Arabia at the Royal Rumble in a loss to the ring general, Gunther. Now done talking about AJ Styles. This week's highlights from Raw, SmackDown, NXT, and AEW Dynamite. Raw was in Philly this past Monday. Not that good of a show. The opening was really good with Braun Breaker destroying the announce table and wreaking havoc with the Vision. Then LA Knight comes out, takes the Division to LA Knight and stuff like that. LA Knight's back. Great. It's good to see him back. And like El Grande Americano, the number 2 El Grande Americano, Gracias, versus Javon Evans in the original Grande Americano, cost the second Americano the match. I think we get the 2 Americanos in a match at Mania, mask versus match, and I think Chad Gable unmasks. I think we get Chad Gable back on television, which I think is sorely needed. We did also get Stephanie Vetker and Raquel Rodriguez in a Philadelphia street fight for the women's world title, and Stephanie retained. I would have gave Raquel the title. She was dominant in that match, and Stephanie won. I would have had Raquel definitely win, and there's a story with Raquel and Liv. I don't know what they do. I think we get Liv and Stephanie at Mania. I think they involve Raquel somehow. Same thing with Roxanne. Maybe it's a triple threat for the women's world title at WrestleMania with Roxanne, Raquel, Liv, and Stephanie. They could probably go that route, which I would not mind, because you're not going to leave those 4 ladies off the card. But we'll see what happens with that. We did get Gunther choking out Dragon Lee. Maybe they have a match at the Chamber in Chicago. It might be one of the matches for the Chamber in Chicago. So we'll see what happens with that. I did like the segment with Gunther and Dragon Lee, and how they booked Gunther this past Monday is how Gunther should be booked moving forward. None of this Gunther smiling, laughing like a goofball, saying, I made John Cena tap out like a bitch. Like, it's the same problem with that every week. And this week was not that at all. And this past Monday on Raw is the Gunther we need to see moving forward. So I'm glad what they did. I'm very happy what they did with Gunther this past Monday on Raw. A lot more of that, please. And then we had Penta beat Bronson Reed by a countout due to LA Knight. And then we had a really good ending promo from this past Monday on Raw with CM Punk, Roman Reigns. With Roman Reigns, he won the Royal Rumble in Saudi a week ago, and he chose to face CM Punk at WrestleMania 42 for the World Heavyweight Championship. And Roman Reigns says, Punk, I choose you because I hate you, and CM Punk, I've always hated you, and I choose you at WrestleMania for the world title. And they set the tone for their match at WrestleMania. And Roman winning the Rumble in Saudi, now it wasn't terrible. It wasn't my first choice, but I don't think he needed the Rumble. But after the promo Punk and Roman had this past Monday on Raw, Roman and Punk at Mania, I'm telling you now, I am sold. I'm very much looking forward to that match, and I expect those two to do very good with each other for WrestleMania. So I'm looking forward to Roman and Punk at Mania for the world title, and that's an easy night 2 main event for WrestleMania 42 with the World Heavyweight title on the line with CM Punk defending against Roman Reigns. And the first time the World Heavyweight title defended at WrestleMania, fun little fact, the last time the World Heavyweight title was defended at WrestleMania, the main event, was 2008 in Orlando, WrestleMania 24 with Edge versus The Undertaker, where The Undertaker won the world title and became 16-0 at WrestleMania. Fun little fact. So looking forward to Punk and Roman at WrestleMania 42 for the World Heavyweight Championship. Easy night 2 main event for WrestleMania 42. Easy. We then got NXT and like outside the beginning and the end and Gunther and Dragon Lee, outside of that, other than that, Raw wasn't that good this past Monday in Philly. Raw this Monday should hopefully be a lot better. They got World Tag Team title match, Usos versus Alpha Academy, World Tag Team titles on the line, Natty versus Maxine Dupree. Then they got the Chamber qualifiers this Monday on Raw as well. So there's that. NXT this past Tuesday, like I said earlier in the video, Robert Stone is the new interim NXT GM. I don't know if he's a permanent GM for NXT, but we'll see. We did get the 7-man ladder match for the vacant NXT title. Joe Hendry won by knocking Ricky Saints off the ladder, and Joe Hendry's the new NXT champion, which I expected Ricky Saints to win, though Joe Hendry won it, and I'm not mad about it. I'm actually very happy for Joe Hendry. I thought he'd be called up to SmackDown soon, and there were rumors of Joe Hendry being called up soon to SmackDown. Looks like that's not happening anytime soon, and I could actually see Ricky Saints called up to the main roster soon after WrestleMania, and I could absolutely see that. Now we'll put Ricky Saints on SmackDown, if I'm being brutally honest. I think he's ready, and he's been ready. Should have been called up months ago, but that's just my 2 cents on that. Joe Hendry's new NXT champion. Congratulations to Joe Hendry, and very happy for Mr. I believe in Joe Hendry. So I do believe in Joe Hendry. Congratulations to Joe Hendry as the brand new NXT champion. And then we got AEW Dynamite from this past Wednesday. Andrade, Kenny Omega was very good. Not much of a story. Andrade actually won, which I was shocked and actually very happy of. You got Swerve Strickland in the mix as well with the world title scene and picture and stuff. You got Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford beating the Babes of Wrath in a title eliminator match, which I was not a fan of, and I hate these eliminator matches where the champions can lose clean and on-title match. I hate that. Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford won. Who cares? And Megan Bayne deserves better as well. And then we got MJF and Brody King title eliminator match in the main event. Went 90 seconds. MJF was bitched out, jobbed out in 90 seconds. And this was your world champion, by the way. And I hated this. I fucking hated this. Adam Page came out, distracted MJF. MJF looked like a fucking dummy. Looked like a fucking scrub out there. Brody chokes him out like over the top with MJF draping over the top rope. Cannonball in the corner. And then that pile driver that Brody King does. 1, 2, 3. And MJF as the world champion loses clean in 90 seconds to Brody King. And I fucking hated that, bro. Absolutely fucking hated it. Why would you have your world champion just bitched out like that? Like, you just buried the world championship. Like how to make the AEW world title look like shit? Yeah, let's book MJF up there. Make him look like a geek. Yeah, make him look like a fucking absolute schmuck out there against Brody King. And MJF is made to look like an idiot in 90 seconds with Brody King. And the match should have never happened from the start. But to book MJF like that I have a problem with that. And there should be no defending that. Oh, well, Adam Page and MJF and they're feuding. I don't care. It still looks bad. It still looks bad at the end of it. And no champion should be losing. And I hate title eliminator matches. I hate non-title matches where the champion can lose clean. And champions should never lose clean. and non-title matches ever. The only time a champion should wrestle is when the title's on the line. Did MJF really need to wrestle Brody King on Wednesday? The answer is no. And that was fucking Vince level booking how MJF was booked at the end of Dynamite this past Wednesday. That was that like Vince booking 101 where the world champion is made to look like shit and he's jobbed out in 90 seconds to Brody King. Absolutely fucking garbage booking if I ever seen it. You would never see Drew McIntyre, Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns, or CM Punk book like this. You would never see that. Even Oba Femi when he was NXT champion. Would you ever see Oba Femi booked how MJF was booked this past Wednesday? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. You would never see that. That would never happen in WWE if Roman, Drew, Cody, Punk, or Oba Femi was the world champion in WWE. You'd never see that bullshit there. Never. And MJF is the world champion in AEW, and he's made to look like an absolute jobber in 90 seconds. Congratulations, Tony. You just buried your world title, made your world title look like shit in 90 seconds. Congratulations, Tony. I don't know when MJF's AEW contract runs out, but as soon as his AEW deal's up, I am telling you right now, he is going right to WWE, and he's going to be a lot better off there. At this point, I hope MJF is counting his days in AEW. I'm sure he can't wait to get out of that AEW contract as soon as that AEW deal's up, because you know exactly where he's going as soon as that AEW contract runs right out. You know exactly where he's going. And he's going right to WWE, right where Cody Rhodes and CM Punk are. And you know what? He's going to be a lot better off for it in WWE. Mark my words. Mark my words. That was fucking garbage, what they did with MJF on Wednesday. Absolute fucking garbage. Nobody should be defending this. Nobody. If you defend it, you are the root of the fucking problem. Point blank. And Dynamite was actually decent on Wednesday up until that ending. Up until that ending. Awful. Absolutely fucking awful, shitty booking. Shitty Vince level like booking. Shitty Vince McMahon type of booking. Fucking god awful. And then we had SmackDown this past Friday. They were at the Spectrum Center in Charlotte, North Carolina. They did happen to have some Elimination Chamber qualifying matches. Randy Orton qualified for the men's chamber. The first to qualify for the men's chamber was Orton beating Solo Sikoa and Aleister Black in the main event. Triple threat, which I thought was a good match. Tiffany Stratton beat Lash Legend and Chelsea Green to qualify for the women's chamber. That match was not that good, in my opinion. And Tiffany Stratton qualified, which I thought she would. Orton also qualified. I thought he would qualify as well. Cody Rhodes attacked Drew McIntyre at the beginning of the show. Cody Rhodes cut a very good promo. You had Oba Femi squash Kit Wilson in a squash in literally less than 90 seconds. How Oba Femi should have debuted in a match from Monday on Raw instead. They had Oba Femi go out on Raw and squash the War Raiders in a non-match, which I hated, and it felt like a Bruce Pritchard idea through and through. But on SmackDown, this is what should happen with Oba Femi this past Monday on Raw, and apparently Oba Femi's not signed to a main roster brand yet. Hopefully soon, and I expect Oba to go to Raw. And according to rumors, that Oba Femi looks like he's going to Raw, according to reports and rumors. But Oba Femi squashed Kit Wilson in less than 90 seconds this past Friday on SmackDown. You did have Apollo Crews backstage. He was alive and apparently still is employed. Same thing with the Motor City Machine Guns and stuff. They had Johnny Gargano lay down on a production crate that said NXT on the production crate. I don't know if Johnny and Candice are going back to NXT. I don't know if they're leaving WWE. I don't know if they're staying or they're unhappy. I don't know what they're doing. If whatever is going on with Johnny Gargano, Candice LeRae, I'll certainly let you know. They had that as well. The women's tag team titles were on the line with Io Sky and Rhea Ripley versus Kiana James and Julia. That was a decent women's tag title match. And you should not sleep on Kiana and stop sleep on Kiana James, man. She's actually been decent since the Rumble. She can actually wrestle. Julia's not been bad, but Kiana James has been kind of killing it the past week. So hopefully that continues with Kiana James, and she can actually go in that ring, and she's not scared to bump or break a nail. And I've been very impressed with Kiana James lately. So I'm hoping that keeps up. And then they also had Jade Cargill, Jordan Grace, Liv Morgan, Raquel Rodriguez. I wasn't a really big fan of that much at all. Jade Cargill's been a failure as women's champion, and I can't wait for the belt to be off her. They're apparently having Jade Cargill and Jordan Grace next week on SmackDown for the women's title. They also had what else did they have? They had Shinsuke Nakamura and Tama Tonga on SmackDown this past Friday. I don't care who gives a shit. They had Trick Williams come out, got some promo. He confronted the WWE champion Drew McIntyre. That was okay. That was fine. He also had Jacob Fatu interrupt Drew McIntyre. McIntyre trying to get promo time, and McIntyre couldn't catch a break. And then when Cody and Fatu both interrupted McIntyre's promo time, like when Cody did at the beginning of the show and Jacob Fatu in the middle of the show, after Cody did in the beginning of the show, Nick Aldis kicked Cody Rhodes out of the arena, and then Jacob Fatu out of the arena, stuff like that. Then towards the end of the show, Drew McIntyre finally got promo time and mentioned Roman Reigns, CM Punk, and Roman bearing the WWE Championship that Drew McIntyre currently holds, which I didn't like in Roman's promo Monday on Raw. I will say that was one of the few things of Roman's promo this past Monday on Raw, which I thought wasn't nice, but that's just me. So Drew McIntyre finally caught a break and cut a promo towards the end of the show as well. So you had that. You had Carmelo Hayes and The Miz one-on-one. Carmelo Hayes won as he should. So you have that. It wasn't that bad, in my opinion, Melo and Miz from this past Friday on SmackDown. And then you had and that was pretty much it from SmackDown from this past Friday night as well. They also announced for SmackDown the next 2 weeks, SmackDown the day before Valentine's Day, February 13th, and then February 20th edition of SmackDown. SmackDown February 13th and 20th are going to be on the Sci-Fi channel the next 2 weeks, the day before Valentine's Day, and then the week after February 20th. Those two SmackDowns, the next two SmackDowns will be on Sci-Fi. They'll go back to USA Network on February 27th, the day before the Elimination Chamber in Chicago. So that little thing there as well. They announced for SmackDown next week, February 13th on Sci-Fi, Jordan Grace, Jade Cargill for the Women's Championship. Rey Fenix versus Trick Williams. Women's Tag Team titles, Rhea Ripley and Io Sky versus Lash Legend Nia Jax. And then 2 other Elimination Chamber qualifying matches, a triple threat Elimination Chamber qualifying match. Alexa Bliss versus Alina versus Women's U.S. Champion Julia. I think Alexa Bliss wins, but I'm going the Women's U.S. Champion Julia. That's just me. And then the other triple threat Elimination Chamber qualifying matches for the men. Now, this I'm looking forward to with SmackDown next week, and this looks very unpredictable. Triple threat Elimination Chamber qualifying match on SmackDown next week on Sci-Fi. Cody Rhodes versus Jacob Fatu versus Sami Zayn. Now, this is very unpredictably and interesting right here, because Cody and Fatu are in the same chamber qualifying match. One of them is going to qualify, the other's not, or maybe Cody and Fatu both get X'd out. Who knows, because of their hatred for each other. And who knows, maybe Sami Zayn qualifies and goes to Chicago in the chamber. Maybe it's Sami Zayn that goes to the chamber. Maybe he wins a chamber. Maybe Cody and Fatu fight one-on-one against each other at the chamber. Maybe we get Drew, Cody, Fatu triple threat for the title, the chamber. I don't know. I don't know if the WWE titles even defend the chamber. I don't think we need it. If Balor and Punk Part 2 for the world title is going to happen at the chamber in Chicago, I don't think we need Drew defending his title at the chamber at all, if that is the case. And who knows if Jacob Fatu wins, qualifies, Cody Rhodes wins, qualifies, or maybe Sami Zayn wins, qualifies, or maybe he qualifies, but Jacob and Cody their hatred for each other gets the better of them, and Sami Zayn capitalizes on it, and Sami Zayn qualifies because of the hatred for Jacob and Cody, and Sami Zayn qualifies and stuff like that. Maybe Orton wins the Chamber. I don't know, because I don't know what you do with Randy at Mania, because I do think we get Cody, Drew, and Fatu at WrestleMania for the WWE Championship in a triple threat. Or maybe, but I do think it's a multi-man match at WrestleMania for the WWE title. Drew McIntyre, Cody Rhodes, Jacob Fatu. Maybe it's a fatal four-way. Maybe it's a fatal four-way with adding Randy Orton or Sami Zayn. Who the hell knows? Who the hell knows? But it's going to be very interesting. I'm very intrigued to see what they do with that Chamber qualifier next week on SmackDown on Sci-Fi with Jacob Fatu, Cody Rhodes, Sami Zayn. Going to be very interesting, and possibilities are endless with that. So we'll see what happens. But I'm very, very intrigued and interested to see what WWE does with that next week on SmackDown on the Sci-Fi channel. And SmackDown I thought was fine. It did drag, don't get me wrong, but I feel like they did some solid build to the Chamber and stuff. Some stuff kind of happened and forwarded somewhat of build for the Chamber and stuff of who's going to the Chamber and what's happening with weeks following, especially with Cody, Jacob, and Sami next week, and what's going on and stuff like that. They did tease Aleister Black, Randy Orton, maybe possibly happening at Mania. I would not mind that at all. And I think that was a rumored match for last year's Mania, Orton versus Black, when Aleister Black left AEW around this time last year. Maybe we get Aleister versus Randy at Mania. I have no issue with that at all. Who knows what they do? But I'm very intrigued to see what they do with Jacob Fatu, Cody Rhodes, and Sami Zayn next week. It could really go either way, and I'm very intrigued to see what direction they go with that and with the WWE title as far as that's concerned for WrestleMania. But they did forward some stuff with SmackDown this past Friday and stuff. The 3 hours did drag, but I feel like it did some nice build for the Chamber. It did forwarded some things. It wasn't that bad. It was okay. Wasn't great. It was all right in my opinion. But SmackDown looking like a decent show next week, hopefully. So we'll see. But that is that, folks, for episode 11 of the Forbidden Podcast here on YouTube via FioriousNation, ladies and gentlemen. And about 12:30 in the morning, holy shit, we're about to get the hell out of here, man. Hit the like on the video if you're not done so already. Subscribe to FioriousNation and hit the bell for all notifications when you do subscribe to FioriousNation. It would be greatly appreciated. Helps in the YouTube algorithm and helps the channel a lot, so make sure you go and do that. Just follow me on X at FioriNick579, Facebook Nicholas Fiore 31, Instagram Nicholas Fiore 2014, and TikTok at FioriousNation. And appreciate you guys showing up here, man. You guys are awesome. That is a wrap there for episode 11. We'll be back next Saturday morning, 8 a.m. for episode 12, 8 a.m. on February the 14th on Valentine's Day. Back for that with episode 12. Appreciate you showing up here. Love every single one of you. I will see you next week for episode 12 for Forbidden Podcast next Saturday morning, 8 a.m. on Valentine's Day. Have a good rest of your night, guys. I will see you next week with Adam Carl. Adam Carl not here tonight, but it'll be me and Adam Carl next week for episode 12, 8 a.m. for on Valentine's Day, episode 12 of the Forbidden Podcast. And have a good rest of your night, guys. Enjoy the Super Bowl tomorrow. I'm going to the New England Patriots against the Seattle Seahawks. That's just me. Hopefully it's a good Super Bowl tomorrow. You got Bad Bunny and Kid Rock performing tomorrow during halftime of the Super Bowl, during halftime tomorrow. And Adam Carl and I will see you next Saturday morning, Valentine's Day, 8 a.m. for episode number 12 of the Forbidden Podcast. Have a good rest of your night, guys, and we'll see you next week.